SAFM, leading the conversation.
Don't wait for Black Friday to get access to great deals. SMS out to 38462 and ask Outsurance to give you a better deal on your car insurance. Ask them for 500 Rand cash if they can't beat your current insurance, or a massive 1,500 if you've been claim-free with the same insurer for 3 years. That's out to 38462. That's a monthly saving on your premium or a cash promise. You've got nothing to lose. SMS out now. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
Rito leri hangalakeke na misava hinkwayo ri haxa mbewu ya vutlhari. Xana imani anga ku miyeta kake, imani anga miyeta ka mpfumawulo wa rito ra kuke. 326 yi tshama yi ri etindleve eka SAFM hikuva u yi phamela swakudya swa miehleketo hi dya yi tlhela hi xipa. Ndzi ri halala Aldrin Sampear halala, wena la telekiweke eswitikweni swa vutlhari a katingiwa etimbiteni ta vutivi a sekiwa hi galaza ra vutshila. Loko ri mina ntombi ya mutonga n'wa xambula makhutla wa madyafulari la tsundzuka n'wana hi ku heta ndzi ku hluvulela xihuku ndzi ri kula u ringana na ndlopfu. Halala Aldrin Sampear halala.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is 11 minutes after 3 o'clock. Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Headline with me, Aldrin Sampear. Thank you so much for choosing us this afternoon. We're with you from now up until 6 o'clock. So coming up on the show this afternoon, we're monitoring what's currently happening in Parliament, where Parliament is debating on a motion that has been brought by the EFF that the Israeli embassy in South Africa must be shut down, must be closed, and that South Africa should temporarily suspend diplomatic ties with Israel. And this is, of course, of the ongoing Israeli-Hamas war since the start of what happened on the 7th of October, where Hamas attacked Israelis who were attending a music festival, and 1,200 people that were killed after that incident. And we now know that over 10,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the Israeli have launched their attack, and also demanding that Hamas release the 200 plus hostages that they have taken from Israel. So we're monitoring that's currently playing out in Parliament, and the ANC has indicated that they will be supporting this motion. So unprecedented, we could see the Israeli embassy being shut down. So do stay tuned to the show. We'll give you an update with regards to that. Also on the show this afternoon, speaking about what's happening in Israel, we'll be in conversation with Dr. Matt Gilbert, who is a Norwegian physician and humanitarian activist who has actually worked also in Gaza at the Al-Asif hospital, as we've just heard as well, that there has been a ground offensive that has been launched by the IDF, that is the Israeli Defense Force, as they are arguing that Hamas actually has an operation underneath the hospital, which Hamas has, of course, denied. So Dr. Gilbert will be joining us in the next few minutes. Also in the show this afternoon, we speak to Hanin Bagoti, who is the head of Gift of the Givers office in Ramallah. You may have heard now in the news bulletin that Gift of the Givers have confirmed that its regional head in Gaza, Ahmed Abbasi, was killed earlier on today while coming from a prayer service. So we'll be speaking to Hanin at 10 to 4. Also in the show this afternoon, we speak to Tsepo Maji, coordinator at the Right to Early Childhood Development, a call for a nutrition program for early childhood development centers. And then on the interview after 5 o'clock, we look at the state of the state attorney and asking, is it still fit for purpose? We'll be speaking to Fetizani Panderani, who is the Solicitor General. You may recall the Chief Justice of the country complaining that the state attorney not providing him with the services that is required for him to defend the State Capture Commission of Inquiry report, and now also that he has had to rely on private law firms on a pro bono basis to actually help him defend that report. So that's what's coming up on the show this afternoon. Anything else that you'd like to place on the agenda on 0614 104 107? You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is 14 minutes after 3 o'clock. We speak to the MEC for Education in Gauteng, Madume Chirwane. An investigative report into the death of a learner in Thokoza on Gauteng's East Rand has recommended that the principal, the deputy principal, and educators be charged for the flawed manner in which they handled the matter. The report has found that this contributed to a grade 6 learner, Sibusiso Mbata, taking his own life. Mbata died by suicide last month after he was allegedly bullied for his sexual orientation by his teacher and the deputy principal. The report has revealed that the learner was emotionally abused for his sexual orientation by staff at the school. The MEC now joining us on the line. MEC, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. What has your investigation found?
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, as already outlined, the investigation has been able to uncover and determine that there is a high probable cause from especially the side of the educators. They played a very critical role in the learner acting in the manner that he did. So it is also a set of recommendation that we need to institute disciplinary processes against those 4 officials, and obviously then additional recommendation was also around policy and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So also the admission that came from one of the teachers that told him to leave his gayism at the gate. What's your response to this, MEC?
Look, our educators are very professional across, because we do teach them a set of values and principles, and they know that we always every year upskill them on how to deal with sensitive issues, sensitive matters. And they know we also teach them how to, from time to time, reskill and upskill them around on managing, especially issues such as these ones of bullying, which we do provide training. The school did confirm that, for instance, the training for anti-bullying was done at the school, but it was never really implemented. So there is a lot of work that we're doing in that area. So our educators know what needs to be done. So from my side, they should have handled the situation better, because they know, especially the importance of protecting children and protecting people, people's rights in general. So in that regard, I really felt that they really let us down as a sector.
Yeah. What was the role of the principal on all of this? Because the recommendation here is also that the principal must be charged.
Look, there is a set of evidence that was brought as a term. Amongst those, there's a video of which is not in my position, if you ask me, but the investigators have it, where the principal was seen going towards the incident but not really showing any intent to resolve it, and with concern amongst others. So the overall oversight, and providing stability and calm, in this whole situation and within the school was not there. So it's there. So, but I don't want to speak deep into detail. But the principal does have answers, questions to answer.
Yeah. What was the response of the family to this report?
When they didn't say much, but they appreciated the fact that I think from the way I saw them, they feel absolved, because they've been saying from day one that one of the educators, the deputy principal, is liable for, is responsible rather for what has happened to the child, and the investigation did bring that to light, that the deputy principal could have handled the situation better, and rather he aggravated it, and he allowed his subjective views to reign,
Yeah.
So that's what that went down.
Was there any indication from the family that, considering this report, that has found culpability on the part of the staff members employed by the department, that they will bring a civil suit?
Not yet. Nothing. Not yet to me. Not to us. But if should it happen, we will be more than happy to really start speaking to the family. Should they go down that route or not? But so far, they've not said anything to us, and there's nothing that has come to us.
Thank you so much for your time. Matume Chirwane is the MEC for Education in Gauteng.
#SAFMBTH.
Open the Absa Cash Invest Tracker account and earn the best rates in the market. More than the top 10 money market funds' average returns. Enjoy unmatched advantages at an interest rate of 8.9% per annum. Plus, if you open your account today, you could win your share of 15 million rand in luxury travel experiences for two. Yes, you heard right. A trip for you and your partner. My bank does that. Open yours today in less than 5 minutes on the banking app, at your nearest Absa branch, or consult your private banker or call 0860 111 515. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Have you ever noticed how unique the rugby ball is?
You should check out Head High.
The rise of junior rugby stars Mana and Tai.
Vince is not just their stepfather, he's their coach.
Catch the brothers' dream of the black jersey, Head High, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
#Rugby Drama Galore.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
I reflected on the lives of these men and said, Steve Biko could have been a medical doctor. Aubrey Mokwape, they could have been medical doctors, but for the sake of me and many others, they chose a path of justice. What challenges me all the time is there are multitudes out there who are unemployed, who are uneducated, people who from time to time go to bed without food. This is an opportunity to use this privilege, to use this position for the advancement of the cause of justice, because there is so much more that still needs to be done out there.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Two opposition leaders in Zambia have been warned and cautioned and detained on espionage charges for their feature in a television documentary produced by Zimbabwean journalists for Zimbabwe TV during the last Zimbabwe's general elections. The two are being accused of acting in a manner prejudicial to the safety or interest of the Republic of Zambia in the said documentary, as concerns of shrinking democratic space continues to be more pronounced in that country. Channel Africa's Arthur Davis Sikopo has that story from Lusaka.
Two opposition leaders, Fred Membe of the Socialist Party and Ravona Kachinda of the former governing party, the Patriotic Front, were on Tuesday this week locked up at different police stations in Lusaka and later warned and cautioned on espionage charges for their feature in a documentary produced by a Zimbabwe journalist and for Zimbabwe TV. The documentary, titled The Grand Scheme, Its Foreign Powers and Local Elites Are Destroying Africa, Part 1, looked at the last Zimbabwe elections and how the alleged foreign powers are trying to change the status quo of the continent by wanting to install presidents of their preferred persons.
Zimbabwe was in actual fact under siege during the process from a well-knit cartel of neoliberals.
During the Zimbabwe elections, confrontations were raised, regards SADC election observer mission head Nevas Mumba, who is Zambia's former vice president and is still actively in politics today, when he was accused by Zimbabweans, especially those that support ZANU-PF, of meddling in that country's internal politics. Dr. Mumba, who was appointed as election observer mission head by Hakainde Hichilema, president of Zambia, who is also a SADC Troika chief, is accused of siding with the opposition CCC of Zimbabwe together with Hichilema, and concerns are that Hichilema and Nelson Chamisa are close friends and that Hichilema would have loved to see Chamisa win that election. Given Luwinda, Rafona Kachinda and Imano Mwamba, all from the former governing party, the Patriotic Front in Zambia, and Fred Membe and Chilfatayali of the Socialist Party and Economic Equity Parties, respectively, were interviewed from Zambia in the said documentary. Nakachinda speaks in the documentary.
We are working with our heads buried in our palms out of shame because this president that we have is a puppet of imperialists.
Fred Membe also gives his view on Hichilema's association with foreign powers.
Mr. Akainde Hichilema here, he is sponsored by the Anglo-American Corporation Foundation, the Brentes Foundation, run by the Oppenheimers. That sponsors the DA in South Africa, that sponsors Bobby Wine in Uganda, that sponsored Raila Odinga in the last elections in Kenya. After their victory in Zambia, they thought they would roll over the region. But Zimbabwe is not Zambia.
Chilufyatali hits his point on Nevas Mumba and Hichilema.
Nevas Mumba is a megalomania, he likes it big. And he will do anything to get that.
In Lusaka, Zambia, I'm Arthur Davis, Scopo.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Let's take your voice notes on 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Afternoon, Adrian and your team. It's Mnguni in Japan. Adrian, I have a question to the fellow listeners. Anyone can answer this one because I really wish to know what was happening during the state capture years that is not happening now. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
#SAFMBTH.
We're in conversation next with Dr. Matt Gilbert, Norwegian physician and humanitarian activist. So, as Israeli forces have entered the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza and the compound that surrounds it, we hear from Dr. Matt Gilbert, who has spent 16 years as a volunteer at the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. Gilbert is currently visiting South Africa to share his account of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and he says the West, including US President Joe Biden and the Secretary of State Antony Blinken, are responsible for what is happening in Gaza. He now joins us on the line. Dr. Gilbert, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Just a quick response to the claim that has been made by Israel about Hamas running a command center at the Al-Shifa hospital. And as Al Jazeera is reporting now, that they're still waiting for that evidence to be shown.
It's stupid. It's lies. Israel, the colonial army, the horrible attacks on the Palestinian people is sort of filled with claims that are untrue. This claim that Shifa Hospital has a bunker and is a command center has been thrown around since 2009, first time I heard it. And they've had 16 years to show the proofs. There is no proof. What is clear, however, from the latest United Nations statistics is that the Israeli attack forces during these last 4.5 weeks, they have performed 152 attacks on healthcare in Gaza. And they have actually brought down 27 hospitals in Gaza, and there are only 9 functioning hospitals remaining in Gaza. So what they are doing is they're trying to make a smoke screen to cover up that the modus operandi of the Israeli army is actually to attack healthcare. During the same period, by the way, the last 4 or 5 weeks, there is registered 158 Israeli attacks on healthcare in the West Bank. They have killed so far 198 healthcare workers in Gaza, not in Shifa, but in all the other hospitals. So this is a ridiculous lie. They can't prove it, like the other lies. And I think we have to understand that the world opinion is now turning against Israel because people understand that all these lies cannot cover that what we're seeing in Gaza is a colonial occupier trying to apply a deeply racist apartheid politics, killing. So far, they have killed 12,000 people and they have wounded 28,000 people, according to UN statistics, meaning they have killed 6,000 children in 4 weeks.
Is there, though, some level of legitimacy to this claim that is being made by the Israeli Defense Force? They've released a video that shows a duffel bag containing Hamas uniforms and flak jackets, rifles as well as grenades, and they say asking, why are these weapons there? Surely these weapons have absolutely no business being inside the hospital. That's according to the spokesperson of the Israeli military.
You know, the last person of earth I would trust in telling truth is the spokesperson of the Israeli attack forces, the last person on earth. And we know for sure there are numerous examples that Israelis are planting evidence. We've seen that in the West Bank, you know. They stop an ambulance, they go inside, they put some weapons for explosives, and they say, oh, look here, it's used by the terrorists. So how can they prove that that bag was not brought in there by them? Number one. Number two, a few Kalashnikovs and some uniforms. Is that a central command and leader center for a resistance movement with the power that they are confronting now? No, it's not. And the last point, if you were confronted with an army as vicious and ruthless as the Israeli occupation forces, having killed 6,000 of your children during the last 4 weeks, would you not be happy if that army approached your hospital, if some of your fellow men and women in your nation had a gun to protect you? So, I mean, these allegations are stupid, and they try to hide the fact that they are breaking the Geneva Convention every minute of their attack. They are attacking the Palestinian society at large. They're not fighting the military powers. They are going against the people and the civilian institutions. Look, why did they bomb the Al-Azhar University? Why do they bomb schools? Why do they bomb the water pipelines and the sewage systems? It is because this is a colonial occupation trying to eradicate the Palestinian people.
Dr. Matt Gilbert, thank you so much for your time. Norwegian physician and humanitarian activist who's also worked at the Al-Shifa Hospital, which now, of course, is where you have the Israeli Defense Force trying to find evidence of tunnels that are underneath the hospital, where they also say that Hamas has its command center. And currently underway, of course, in Parliament, in South Africa's Parliament, there is a debate and a motion that has been proposed by the EFF to close down the Israeli embassy in South Africa and also to temporarily suspend diplomatic ties with Israel. It is being supported by the ANC. But later on, we will be in conversation with Hanin Bagoti, who's the head of the Gift of the Givers office in Ramallah, and this is after Gift of the Givers volunteer and head of that region was gunned down in the early hours of the morning while coming from prayer service. It's a minute after 3:30, time for the news headlines with N. Musa. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Aldrin. In the headlines, former President Jacob Zuma has cited Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's public remarks about him in his latest filing to legally challenge the appointment of Zondo as the head of the judiciary. An investigative report into the death of a learner in Thokoza on Gauteng's East Rand has recommended the principal, deputy principal and educators be charged for the flawed manner in which they handled the matter. The report found it contributed to 12-year-old grade 6 learner Sibusiso Mbata taking his own life. And tensions at the Blyvoor gold mine are continuing as more than 800 workers have staged an underground sit-in at the mine since yesterday on the West Rand near Carltonville in Gauteng. I'll have details on these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And let's get a traffic update with Rob Byrne. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. There is a bit of rain across Gauteng province, so do take it easy, please, if it's wet where you are. Some very heavy traffic en route to Durban this afternoon. It's a broken down vehicle. It's been there a while at Cato Ridge in the roadworks. Traffic is all the way back through Camperdown and back towards the Amlas Road exit. That is very heavy. Major fire destroying houses this afternoon along the M19 at the Quarry Road area. Now, if you're going out of Durban, there's a heavy backlog of traffic there out towards the Reservoir Hills and New Germany area. area. There's also a big queue on the other side, the M19 coming through onto Mgeni Road and down through to Alpine. So it looks like you're probably being rerouted away from that M19 as the road is closed. The Spine Road off-ramp from the N3 into Durban remains closed. That's due to an earlier crime scene. And we saw this yesterday in Cape Town. We're seeing first signs of it again today. Really extensive congestion around the Greenpoint area. So basically between the stadium and the CBD, multiple routes are under pressure. A lot of it stems from the big gridlocking going along on Baton Truck on the western side of the CBD towards the elevated freeway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
And Duming Kapele standing by as she's watching the semi-finals of the Cricket World Cup where South Africa is taking on Australia. What's the vibe like there? And I wonder if there were any disappointment in the early hours of the match.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're out at the Cricket South Africa offices. It's very vibey, actually. I think I didn't expect so many people to come through, but it just shows how much support the Proteas have down here. Earlier on, we had a scare, a couple of wickets falling very quickly, but I saw a lot of excitement when we saw that partnership between... Was it Miller?
Miller
and Klassen.
Yes,
it was Miller and Klassen. And right now, you're hearing the voice of Cricket South Africa, head of marketing here at Cricket South Africa, Wanelo, who I'll be chatting to just a bit later. But for now, I want to start off with football, where Kaizer Chiefs chairman Kaizer Motaung believes that the time has come for the Premier Soccer League to review how they are dealing with the incidents of hooliganism at the stadium and not only target the clubs. Now, Motaung was responding to questions on fan violence that has engulfed Amakosi this season, and Chiefs were forced to play their DStv Premiership game against Cape Town Spurs last week at FNB Stadium behind closed doors as part of the punishment for their fans' misbehavior.
Some of the support systems that we need to get people to understand that this is a soccer game. You either win the game, lose the game, or play it wrong. So, but whatever the result, you must accept, because it's a sporting event. So we need to really strengthen those elements of the game. But unfortunately also, I think at a league level, I don't think we're dealing with the matter properly, because it's easy for the league to put a DC together and fine you and actually have a lockout, a game that is locked out, but it affects the image of the league as well, because the league sponsors do not want to see us playing in those empty stadiums. Right? It's not in the interest of football.
In rugby, Bongi Bonami could be sidelined for 6 months due to a knee injury. The injury forced the 32-year-old to leave the field early in the World Cup final victory over New Zealand in Paris last month. South Africa next play in July next year, hosting Ireland in a 2-test series. The Irish beat the Springboks in a World Cup pool match, but lost to New Zealand in the quarterfinals. Then in cricket, where the Proteas are taking on Australia in the second semi-final, South Africa won the toss and they elected first. The Proteas were all out for 212 in the 49th over, and David Miller top scored with 101, while Pat Cummins took 3 for 51. As I did mention earlier on, we're out at the Cricket South Africa offices, and right now I'm actually sitting right next to Cricket South Africa, or head of marketing here at Cricket South Africa, Gwanele Mgomezulu. Gwanele, good afternoon to you, and thank you for the invite. Absolutely great vibe out here. Let's talk about the game first things first. How are the nerves coming along?
Definitely a tough day in the office today. But again, thank you again for coming through, for the support, and for everybody that's here. It's really just heartwarming to see the support from various courses to say they're behind the boys. They're literally celebrating what the team has achieved so far.
I mean, obviously it's a big one, semi-finals, but for you as Cricket South Africa, why was it important to call everyone here to come and watch it with you?
if we track the performance so far, the team has definitely set records, if not broken, quite a lot of those. And it's really that celebration to say, let's get together as a collective, different affiliates. We've got some of the cricketers, we've got the people that we've worked with over the last few months and that. And today was exactly that, to say, let us celebrate these record breakers. They've really, really flown the flag extremely high and that. Yes, it is a tough day today, but it's one of those where we're saying, we acknowledge you, we see you, and we want to say thank you very much for flying the flag so high.
I mean, we're looking at Australia right now. They're batting. They're sitting on 39 for no loss after 5 overs. Do you think we can do it?
It's a tough one. So we definitely have to look at, I mean, I know Temba from a captain perspective and how he manages the field and that. So there's definitely some shifts that he has to make. It's definitely going to be a tough one.
Any worries from you or the Federation just seeing how the performance of Themba Bavuma has been? Obviously, we'd love for him to do well, and we saw how he did well before the World Cup.
So as a federation, we're really eyeing for that top 2, top 3 position within any format. And for us to be in the top 4 really is testament to all our plans and what we've been working on over the last few years and that bit. It is our goal to achieve the finals. As you know, South Africa has never made the finalists, and we're hoping this year, which we're still looking, learning and saying how can we get into that final and start breaking that psyche to say we're only as good as the semi-finals, but how then do we take it to the next level, to the finals then. Team perspective, there's a whole lot of lessons, there's a whole lot of things that all of them are actually contributing and say what is it that they can improve on.
So you think there's a lot to improve on when it comes to our captain?
The team as a whole. If you look at some of the things, I mean, if you look at the overall batting from across all the quarters, if you look now from a bowling perspective and certain things, so there's definitely lessons that we walk away, not only on this game, but if you look at some of the previous games as well, it's really saying how do we collectively learn from all of this. We've obviously got India inbound coming in December, so it's taking those lessons and saying, going into that, how do we still regroup and really focus on that top, because it is an important tour as well.
Just quickly, as we wrap up, how important of a moment would it be if the Proteas actually go through to the final?
Wow, indescribable. It's that moment. Some of us haven't slept for the last 2 months, and that's the day that we're really waiting for, to say we just need to make it to the final. That's all we're looking forward to.
Well, we're really hoping that the Proteas do make it through to the final. I can see Australia now sitting on 40 for no loss. Wanele, thank you very much. It's a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Khapel.
Thank you so much, Tumi, there out in Melrose Arch. This is where she's at. The Cricket SA's headquarters, where they are watching the semi-finals. And now it is actually 53 with no out. 0614-104-107. You can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. And our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Tune in for a conversation on diabetes on Afternoon Express. We're joined by physician and endocrinologist Dr. Jocelyn Hellig to unpack the common symptoms and risk factors of this disease. Plus, we look at how to manage diabetes through lifestyle choices with dietitian Kath McGaw. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
We are going to Durban when Bafana face Benin in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers. On Saturday, 18 November at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are available for 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children at Ticket Pro. Come dressed in your national colors to support Bafana to win prizes. If you are not in Durban, catch the game on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on sabcsport.com.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
When something is in the heart, you really don't need to be checking as if it was something that was designed to facilitate your appointment. One of the things that I promised the nation was to make sure that transformation happens, with a view to ensuring that work is somewhat evenly distributed among whites, black people, and both black and white women. That is the one responsibility among many that I have pursued with everything within my heart.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
It's 17 minutes after 4 o'clock, 17 minutes rather before 4 o'clock. We had an interview a bit earlier on with Professor Ricardo Hosman, the founder and director of the Harvard Growth Lab. He has done some research that looks into the state of the country's economy, that is South Africa's economy, and why it is performing badly, exacerbating problems such as inequality and exclusion. It also found that two broad classes of problems that undermine inclusive growth in the country, namely collapsing of the state capacity as well as spatial exclusion. According to the report, these two key issues have caused the South African economy to lose its historic sources of comparative advantage. Joining us to speak about this is Professor Ricardo Hosman. We spoke to him a bit earlier on around some of the first two issues that he deals with right at the top of that report, dealing with the issue around the exclusion of people because of apartheid spatial planning, and then also looking into the state's capacity.
What we find is that the economy, in some sense, was used to working with a certain level of state capacity, of functioning infrastructure services. So whether it's electricity, water, rail, ports, security, municipal governments, and these have all been deteriorating, and they have made it harder and harder for firms to operate, for the economy to function, for the economy to be competitive. And as a consequence, you've lost a ton of exports, a ton of jobs in manufacturing, a ton of volume of mining, and that has hurt the economy, it has hurt jobs, it has hurt tax revenues, and in some sense, it's all man-made. There's no natural disasters involved here. It's just, in some sense, a society that used to know how to do some things that is losing that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think perhaps we may have lost the ball, and does it have to do anything at all with regards to planning, considering the transition as well of the country into a democratic state, and whether or not we'd have put in place sufficient planning to ensure that once the governing party, whichever governing party would have been at the time, is able to take the economy forward and also ensure that we are able to propel our GDP?
So, in some sense, we haven't spoken about, apartheid urban planning and more recent housing policy. So let's leave that as an additional issue. But I would say that there are several reasons why state capacity is declining, and one reason is that the attempt was done to use the state to transform society, and that was put as an additional burden or responsibility on every state function. So everyone had to procure in a certain way, give preferential procurement and things in a certain way, and even hire in a certain way. And that became an additional constraint on organizations that made it harder for them to achieve their goals. It also led to, the rise of tenderpreneurs and other forms of unhelpful behavior by people who eventually became very connected politically. So one part is that, but other parts is just the gridlock in government. So different parts of the ANC and its allies seeing, differently on policy issues, leading to no decision. when a decision was clearly urgent and needed. Sometimes it's an issue of ideology that they want to reserve for the state certain functions, even when the state cannot provide it and when other people are willing to provide. So you use the coercive power of the state to prevent others from providing. So the Eskom monopoly implies that the city of Cape Town cannot buy electricity and put a tender to buy electricity, even if Eskom cannot deliver the electricity that they promised. Or it can be that the state capture or corruption has made it very hard to run organizations in an efficient way. The point is that whatever it is, and it's a little bit different depending on whether you're talking about Eskom, about Transnet, about PRASA, about different government entities. Some combination of those things are there. And the important thing is that society recover the capacity of the state, that without a functioning state that can deliver on things, it's very hard for the economy to be competitive. It's very hard for investment to be attractive. It's very hard for jobs to be created. It's very hard to progress in the direction that South Africans want.
Yeah. Would you then say, though, even though procurement, preferential procurement has been identified as a hurdle towards the goals and the vision that we have for the country, that perhaps it is the manipulation of the preferential procurement program that has left us with the challenges that we currently have in the country, because the preferential procurement program has also been sold to the nation and the electorate as a program and a policy to try and ensure there's transformation of the economy, get more black actors into the active economy as well. But when we look at the Stats SA quarterly labor survey report, it consistently says that black Africans remain the most vulnerable.
Precisely. I mean, if you want to have a broad empowerment at the bottom of society, giving privileges to a few rich blacks at the top of society may come at an enormous cost. I mean, I've visited places where a bridge was built through preferential procurement, and in the first rains, the bridge has gone. And who has benefited? Well, a couple of entrepreneurs maybe at the top, but you're hurting thousands and thousands of people that were relying on that bridge. So I think we should focus on really empowering people at the bottom of society, more than giving some privileges to some people at the top of society. And I think that in that sense, a part of the problem has been that there's been more of an emphasis of making the top of society black, with little care for making the bottom of society better.
Yeah. And with that said, looking at the bottom of society, again, South Africa's social welfare policy has been lauded, that it was able to get a lot of people, or at least help them when it comes to poverty, and also the impact that severe hunger has on this vulnerable group. But I find it very interesting what your research has found when you look at the SRD grant and how you have couched that to say that it doesn't speak to the issue of inclusion. It actually compensates exclusion.
Exactly. I think it's palliative more than curative, right? It's, you live in a rural area of a former homeland. There are no nearby roads. There's no economic activity. There's no ways in which you can extend agricultural value chains to you. So you have the lowest employment rates of anywhere in South Africa. So you get a check. But, you would want to have a policy that really includes them into opportunities, into business models, into ways to thrive. And the report discusses some ways of doing that. I don't want to pick a fight on helping people who are in need, but I want to have a strategy that really gets them to be productive members of society so that they can aspire their own dreams. I think that palliative is not as exciting as curative.
Let's look at some of your recommendations. Of course, the energy crisis, still a major one for the country. And then also our debt to GDP is excessively increasing. And some people are saying that very soon we could see the debt to GDP being at around 80%.
Yes, I mean, the problem is not that it gets up. The problem is when you don't have a market that will want to buy it from you, buy all the debt you're issuing, and then the debt will not go up, but you will go to hell. That is, the government won't be able to raise the funds. Interest rates will go through the roof. There's going to be an economic crisis. I mean, we've seen them over and over in other countries. So it's not, a hypothetical thing. It's something that I have seen too many times, and I can tell you, it's really, really ugly. So you don't want to get yourself anywhere near those dangers. And right now, this year, you've had a bad year. You've had, because of state collapse, both on ports, on rail, especially on electricity, you've had very poor performance of mining companies. They've been paying much less in taxes. And as a consequence, you have a situation where the Treasury has to issue a lot of bonds when the markets are not terribly happy to buy more emerging market bonds. And as a consequence, it's funding the current deficit has been a struggle. And it has happened in the context of rising interest rates that is making debt service more expensive, but it's making capital more expensive for everybody in society. And consequently, it's depressing investment and jobs in society as a whole. So we find that in South Africa, fiscal stimulus, fiscal expansions have been contractionary. Have backfired in some sense, and that fiscal contraction, fiscal consolidation could help the economy recover by creating more security, by lowering interest rates and facilitating investment.
That is Professor Ricardo Hosman, founder and director of the Harvard's Growth Lab. When we come back, we're in conversation with Hanin Baguti, who is the head of the Gift of the Givers office in Ramallah. And this is following the death of the regional head there in Gaza, Ahmed Abbasi.
Buying a new TV? You'll need a paid-up TV license. Need to check your balance? No sweat at all. You just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 for fast, effective balance inquiries. Secure your legal viewing fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Manchester United and Manchester City ladies have a massive encounter at Old Trafford. The Red Devils are navigating a path to the summit. However, the citizens need maximum points. This is the FA Women's Super League. Who are the real queens of Manchester? Catch the Manchester Derby, Manchester United versus Manchester City ladies, the Sunday 19 November at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
The award-winning SAFM playwriting competition is back.
Piece of good news for writers out there.
SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound.
Dr. Jerry Mufokeng Wamaketa is head judge of the competition.
And you ask the question, who? And I want to say everybody, young, old, black, white.
For a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
It is 3 minutes now before 4 o'clock. We are off now to Ramallah, where we speak to Hanin Baguti, who is the head of the Gift of the Givers office in Ramallah, which has confirmed that its regional head in Gaza, Ahmed Abbasi, was killed earlier today as he was returning from a morning prayer service with his brother. According to the organization, Abbasi served the people of Gaza with distinction since 2013 as the head of the organization's office in Gaza. Hanin, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us, and condolences to you and your colleagues.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
What happened here?
So what happened is that Dr. Ahmed, who's the head of Gift of the Giver's office in Gaza, was praying Al-Fajr with his brother, who is a doctor in Al-Shifa Medical Complex, an anesthesia doctor as well. And an airstrike hit the mosque an Israeli airstrike hit the mosque where they were praying. And unfortunately, both Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Mustafa, his brother, were brutally killed by the Israeli airstrike.
Yeah. Can you confirm how many other people were killed in that airstrike?
The number is not yet confirmed by the Ministry of Health because there are still people under the rubble of the explosion. We don't know yet the number, but we were focusing on the death of our colleague Ahmed, and actually we didn't got the time to gather more information about the incident that happened.
Yeah. What does this then mean for your operations in Gaza, also considering that this is happening during a very volatile time and perhaps during the time that the people of Gaza most need your assistance the most?
Yeah, so Dr. Ahmed was, let's say, the kindest and the purest soul anyone has ever known. He was dedicated in his work. He was giving his best to his work. Despite all the conditions that was happening and still happening in Gaza, Ahmed did his best to help the people. He was risking his life to deliver food baskets, to deliver hot meals, to deliver medical supplies to the needy people and to displaced people, to the injured in Gaza. He did everything he can to help the people, despite he was himself in danger, and there were obstacles in communication and in delivering everything, but our team, all of our team members in Gaza did their best, and they are still doing their best to deliver whatever they can to the injured and to the displaced people. Losing Ahmed is devastating for all of us, for Gift of the Givers in Palestine. All of us are devastated. Our hearts are broken. But despite anything, and despite anything that the Israelis did and will do, we will continue our work in helping the civilians. We will keep working, and we will keep delivering, and we will keep delivering the message that we work with, which is best among people are those who benefit mankind. And Ahmed was one of these people that benefited mankind, and we will continue what Ahmed was doing. Our team in Gaza and our team in the West Bank will we will continue doing our best to help the people of Gaza and the displaced people, the injured. Our team continued the work even after knowing what happened with our dear colleague Ahmed. We are continuing our work, and we will continue the message we hold.
Hanin, thank you so much for your time, and once again, condolences. Hanin Bogoti, they're the head of the Gift of the Givers office in Ramallah, and according to that statement that they issued as well, is that Dr. Ahmed Abbasi leaves behind his 3 children. And also the statement goes on to say that Gift of the Givers fully supports the call by our President Cyril Ramaphosa to hold the terrorist from Tel Aviv, Benjamin Netanyahu, in front of the ICC for war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide and ethnic cleansing. It's a minute after 4 o'clock. Time for the news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top story, Zuma cites Chief Justice Zondo's remarks to his latest legal challenge, and a report recommends educators be charged in Thokoza learner's death. Good afternoon. Former President Jacob Zuma has cited Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's public remarks about him in his latest filing to legally challenge the appointment of Zondo as the head of the judiciary. Zuma filed a supplementary affidavit in the High Court in Pretoria yesterday, stating Zondo's remarks indicate, among other things, that he is unfit to hold office and that he unnecessarily indulges in political commentary. The former president approached the High Court earlier this year in a bid to have Chief Justice Zondo's appointment reversed. Kenny Mapanga reports.
Chief Justice Zondo was appointed to the position in April 2022 following interviews with the Judicial Service Commission. The This was despite the JSC recommending then Supreme Court of Appeal Judge President Mandisa Maya for the position. In the latest court papers, the former president includes utterances by the Chief Justice at the National Anti-Corruption Dialogue and a television interview, as well as the subsequent condemnation that followed. Zuma argues in papers that the conduct of the Chief Justice is ongoing and quote-unquote likely to be repeated, unless the relief he seeks is granted. He goes on to state that lodging a complaint to the JSC, which is chaired by the Chief Justice, has quote-unquote proven to be a futile exercise.
An investigative report into the death of a learner in Thokoza on Gauteng's East Rand has recommended the principal, deputy principal and educators be charged for the flawed manner in which they handled the matter. The report found it contributed to 12-year-old grade 6 learner Sibusiso Mbata taking his own life. Mbata died by suicide last month after he was allegedly bullied for his sexual orientation by his teacher and the deputy principal. The report has revealed that the learner was emotionally abused for his sexual orientation by staff at the school. The attorney Baitseng Rangata, who led the investigation, says the school neglected to deal with the matter effectively.
The flawed handling of the matter by the HOD, the class teacher of the deceased, and their failure to follow the processes of reporting, it is recommended that those teachers be charged and be subjected to disciplinary hearings. It is recommended that the deputy principal be charged by putting him on precautionary suspension, and a charge sheet be served on him to appear before a disciplinary inquiry for ill-treating, blaspheming, homophobically abusing the deceased, and for also making utterances that caused the death of the learner. We further recommended that the principal be charged in that he failed to uphold the duties as prescribed to him. He also neglected to deal with the issues properly.
Tensions at the Blyvoor gold mine are continuing as more than 800 workers have staged an underground sit-in at the mine since yesterday on the West Rand near Carltonville in Gauteng. The employees are demanding management meet their demands, which include a bonus or 13th check, a living out allowance, workplace injury compensation and more annual leave days. The workers are calling for the National Union of Mine Workers to represent them and not their current union representative, Blyvoor Workers Union. NUM spokesperson Libuwani Mamburu.
The NUM was approached by the workers, and we must make it clear that we are not a recognized union there at Blyvoor gold mine. But workers are saying that they want to join their union of choice, which is the NUM. And they don't want to be part of Blyvoor Workers Union, which is a union that was formed by the management.
The Independent Electoral Commission in the Western Cape has called on young people in the province to make use of the opportunity this weekend to take part in voter registration. This ahead of the general election set to take place next year. The Chief Electoral Officer in the province, Michael Hendrickse, says 1,572 voting stations will be operational this weekend.
These are South Africans in the province who are 18 years and older. We still have a bit of a way to go in terms of ensuring that we register. Also, of that 3.1 to 8 million, just over 400,000 are people under the age of 29. So there's also in that regard a specific push to get more young people to come out and register.
In KwaZulu-Natal, the IEC's Chief Electoral Officer Ntombifuthi Masinga has reiterated that people who will not be able to vote at their voting stations on Election Day will have to apply before Election Day to vote at an alternative voting station. She was addressing a media briefing in Pretoria. Rather, in Durban, previously during a general election, voters could vote at any voting station. Masinga says the old system has been amended because it was being abused.
With the legislative amendments that came with the amended Electoral Act, you can no longer do that. In the same way that we provide for pre-notification in terms of special votes, there is now a requirement for pre-notifying the Electoral Commission if you believe that for whatever reason you will not be at your voting station during the election day. You now need to pre-apply and be approved so that the Electoral Commission is aware how many people will show up at the Westville Civic Centre voting station who are not registered there, so that we provision accordingly in terms of our materials.
Recapping the top story, former President Jacob Zuma has cited Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's public remarks about him in his latest filing to legally challenge the appointment of Zondo as the head of the judiciary. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Steenbok explains Bafana assistant coach Helman Kalela's absence at Cafe course, and Hamba backed as pivot for Lions against Ulster. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg's M1 South is quite heavy today, just moving through Malabongwe Drive towards Bayers Nordair. It's a broken down vehicle just after that Malabongwe exit. There is a backlog of traffic heading north on the N1 of Buerta Avenue. Looks like a crash just north of Buerta Avenue, back of the queue there around John Foster Drive. And there is a queue and a half on the M1 South coming in from Hammanskraal. The closer you get to Pumalani Plaza, the heavier that traffic gets. There are some roadworks, one lane open through there. A major fire today at the Quarry Road settlement just near Reservoir Hills. That is still causing major backlogging on the M19 route from the macro side from Springfield Park. Very heavy delays as you approach that fire incident. Also Durban's N2 south heavy from almost Queen Nandi Drive into Spaghetti Junction today. And a stationary truck at Cato Ridge that we reported earlier has been cleared. And Cape Town saw it yesterday, seeing it again today. Terrific pressure on the western side of the CBD and through Greenpoint. Multiple routes are already jammed. It's only going to get heavier going forward. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as pastry chef Sahil Sigabin bakes up a festival of Diwali treats.
And I hope you have a blessed one.
Rudy Page passes his rugby passions onto his family.
I'm beyond proud of my dad. My dad played for my country.
And Loyiso Gijana put his all into music.
That's what has communicated with people, is because I'm writing from my heart.
That's the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6. Repeat Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday morning at 9 on S3.
We are going to Durban when Bafana face Benin in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers. On Saturday, 18 November at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Gates open at 12 p.m. and tickets are available for 50 Rand for adults and 20 Rand for children at Ticket Pro. Come dressed in your national colors to support Bafana to win prizes. If you are not in Durban, catch the game on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. Also available on sabcsport.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
10 past 4.
10 past 4. Bah, bah.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It is now 11 minutes, just gone 11 minutes now after 4 o'clock. Coming up on the show in this hour, we speak to Sinawa Dambo, who is the spokesperson for the EFF. This as Parliament held that mini plenary on that motion that has been brought by the EFF that South Africa must shut down the Israeli embassy in South Africa and that must also cut diplomatic ties, suspend diplomatic ties. We'll be speaking to Sinawa Tambo around that, as we've indicated that the ANC has also said that they will be supporting this motion. And then we're also going to see if we can speak to one of the other political parties, that is the Democratic Alliance, and see where they stand with regards to this motion. And then also coming up on the show at around 20 past 4, we speak to Tsepo Maiji, who is the coordinator at the Right to Early Childhood Development, as they call for a nutrition program for early childhood development centers. And we're also speaking to the Department of Basic Education on that.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and the family. Look, regarding yesterday's topics about SADU employees at IEC, it seems the government and IEC themselves are reluctant in dealing with this issue. Why then can't they, which is IEC, take all those SADU workers there working at IEC, review their contracts, and then make them sign indemnity forms or a contract, and then maybe an affidavit that clearly says we will not will only work at IEC for IEC work. I will not try to prejudice any party against another. Will not support any party against another. We won't do ANC or SADC to work here, and then make them sign that. If anyone goes against those rules, then they will be fired or penalties against them. Clearly, they are not interested in taking them away, and it's very suspicious. Soviet, King Williamstown.
Good afternoon, Aldrin, and all the listeners. If what you're saying is true, that the ANC is going to vote with the EFF in this motion, I hope this is the start of the good things to come, because now they are in right mind, state of mind. I hope in other things concerning the country, they will vote for EFF. This is Gowani Pachi, Echolomno. Thank you.
Well, and speaking about that, Parliament held a mini plenary on the closure of the Israeli embassy this afternoon. Leading up to the meeting, the ANC and the EFF shared their support for the motion. The official vote on the closure of the Israeli embassy takes place at the National Assembly. That's going to happen next week, Tuesday. Let's speak to Sinawa Tambo, who is the spokesperson for the EFF. And then after that, we're going to be speaking to the Democratic Alliance, hopefully, and to hear what their position is on this motion that has been brought by the EFF. But we start off with Zaylene Merrington. Zaylene Merrington, SABC News reporter, joining us from Parliament. Zaylene, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. What transpired this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Aldrin. The various political parties who took part in the debate, there were some who, in fact, there were about, today there were 9 who took part in the debate. 5 supported this motion brought by the EFF, and they were obviously the EFF, it was the ANC, it was the NFP, it was Al-Jamar, and also ATM, and then IFP, Freedom Front Plus, ACDP, and I forget the fourth one, unfortunately it slips my mind now, but they, and the DA. The DA did not support this motion. And basically, it was about the removing of the Israeli embassy from our country and to also suspend all diplomatic relations with Israel. EFF leader Julius Malema saying that supporting the Israel in this regard is actually tantamount to not adhering or supporting the values, and is in fact a betrayal of the values of the South African Constitution. So he asked for a global, he made a global call for the boycotting, disinvestment and implementing of sanctions against Israel. He also called on the South African government to shut down the embassy, and also called on South Africans to support this call, saying that as South Africans who have been, subjected to apartheid, we must always be on the side of, as he said, the side of the weak. So he also called on South African people to support this call of his. But on the other hand, Alden, there were parties who, as I say, rejected this call by the EFF leader. For instance, the IFP and Freedom Front Plus, they both made the point that if we do pull out, if we stop all diplomatic ties with Israel, then that means that we cannot positively contribute to negotiations. And as with the country's history, we do have a lot of experience in that regard. So that is the sort of their motivation why they think that the embassy should not be removed from South Africa.
Thank you so much for your time, Zaylene Merrington, the SABC News reporter, on that motion that has been brought by the EFF. The EFF spokesperson, Sinawa Tambo, now joining us on the line. Sinawa, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Listening into the political parties, first of all, that are rejecting this motion that has been brought by your party, and also the ACDP even arguing that the EFF is wrong, is factually wrong, and it is South Africa that actually needs Israel.
Look, I think we shouldn't be surprised by religious fundamentalists in the form of the ACDP and, of course, right-wing organizations that have never pledged solidarity to the struggles of landless people and have in fact defended land position here in South Africa, such as the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, for opposing a motion of this nature to pledge solidarity with the people in Palestine. I mean, the facts speak for themselves. This is the ACDP saying there's no truth to the claims of the EFF, and the 10,000 plus people who have been killed, women and children in Palestine, should be proof enough. The bombardment that has continued in Gaza and the open-air prison which constitutes the Gaza Strip should be proof enough. The fact that the Palestinian people are restricted their movements, denied humanitarian aid, get telecommunications cut off infrequently while they are being bombed should be proof enough. Hospitals are being bombed should be proof enough that the EFF is speaking the truth, and we are vindicated. And history will absolve us in that regard, and we're going to continue to push for the complete removal of the Israeli embassy in South Africa.
The support from the ANC, did you anticipate that?
Look, I think it's not necessarily us needing to anticipate it, but they have to follow through on a lot of the political lip service they've been paying to Israel over the couple of decades that they've been in power. The ANC has had the power to cut off all diplomatic ties with Israel for decades, in line with what Nelson Mandela has long called for, which is tactical solidarity with the people of Palestine. So I think they were left without a choice but to support the motion of the EFF. We don't think it's something principled. But of course, we're not in an endeavor of political maneuvering. We welcome that support because here we're in a humanitarian cause, a call to pledge solidarity to a people who are going through an ethnic cleansing. So it's not something that we're going to reject or want to characterize in any particular way.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview that Iman Rapeti had with former High Commissioner to Kenya, that is Kingsley Makubele, and his argument was that even on the decision that was taken by the South African government to recall its diplomats in Israel, that it leaves South Africa in a much more weaker position to actually help foster and get a solution out of these negotiations, when the negotiations would be starting, to try and find a solution. What's your take on this? And now moving as far as saying that let's shut down the embassy of Israel in South Africa, does that not further bring forward that position that it becomes even much more difficult for South Africa to be seen as a possible mediator even?
There's no mediation that can be had with a nation that has resolved to commit genocide. That is the first principle that we must all agree upon. The fact that we want to go into a negotiation table with people who are killing women and children, bombing hospitals, bombarding innocent people while they've been shut them in an open-air prison such as Gaza, shows us that these are not people to be negotiated with. They are not interested in negotiation. They are interested in ethnic cleansing. So we can't think of ourselves as being weaker for cutting all ties with a nation that is on a mission to commit genocide. That must be the principle that must anchor all of us. Whether there's economic consequences, whether there's research, medical-oriented consequences, whether there's monetary consequences with cutting ties with Israel, we must be willing to brave those for the greater good. And that is the EFF position in that regard.
Thank you so much for your time. Sinawa Tambo is the spokesperson for the EFF.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as pastry chef Sahil Sigabin bakes up a festival of Diwali treats.
And I hope you have a blessed one.
Rudy Page passes his rugby passions onto his family.
I'm beyond proud of my dad. My dad played for my country.
And Loyiso Gijana put his all into music.
That's what has communicated with people, is because I'm writing from my heart.
That's the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6. Repeat Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday morning at 9 on S3.
Black Friday is back at Dis-Chem. Now for 9 days, from Wednesday 22nd to Thursday 30th November. Make the most of big offers and huge savings. Get down to Black Friday at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Manchester United and Manchester City ladies have a massive encounter at Old Trafford. The Red Devils are navigating a path to the summit. However, the citizens need maximum points. This is the FA Women's Super League. Who are the real queens of Manchester? Catch the Manchester Derby, Manchester United versus Manchester City ladies, the Sunday 19 November at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
It is 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Tsepo Maiki, who is the coordinator at the Right to Early Childhood Development. 1 in 4 children suffer from stunting due to malnutrition in South Africa. One of the challenges of combating malnutrition is that there are no feeding schemes for early childhood development centers. National Treasury has allocated funding for a pilot program for nutrition. Our next guest has written a series of reports on malnutrition, the impact it has had on ECD sector, and what urgent interventions are required. Tsepo now joining us on the line. Tsepo, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. I thought that it was automatic that once ECDs, early childhood development, would fall under basic education, that would also then include the school nutrition program, that they will also benefit from that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon to you and to all the listeners. This is precisely what the campaign is calling for. Real Reform for ECD is urging the Department of Basic Education to provide nutrition support to all eligible children attending early learning programs, regardless of their registration. Currently, there is government support through the 17 Rand per child per day subsidy, of which 6 Rand 80 is ring-fenced for nutrition. This means that 6 Rand is what is envisioned to feed per each child. However, the issue goes on because only 41% of early learning programs are registered, just 33% of early learning programs receive the subsidy, and only 15% of children in the poorest households have access to the subsidy. So even though there is something being done, it is quite clear from the research that what is being done does not reach all children, and more importantly, or even highlighted here, is that it does not reach the most vulnerable children in South Africa.
What do you say to the argument that the centers must first be registered to actually apply for some sort of a subsidy, because after all, it also has to deal with nutrition and safe food that is being consumed by these children?
That is a wonderful question that we accept. And we engaged with this question directly in one of our papers. So this campaign really looked at 3 broader questions around the campaign and the calls that we are making. In the first paper, we explored the legal basis of children's right to basic nutrition and the state's duties in respect of that right. In the second paper, we explored what constitutes early nutrition, particularly from a standpoint of health provided at early learning programs. And then thirdly, we recommend ways that nutrition can be extended to these programs. So to answer your question specifically, we can look to the first paper, which looked at the legal basis. And here it is established that every child has the right to nutrition. And the paper goes on to really expand on that. This right that the child has does not disappear or appear depending on the location of the child. What we mean that just because a child is at an unregistered center does not mean the state's duty to provide nutrition for the child falls away. So this is why the campaign specifically calls for a nutrition program that extends to both registered and unregistered centers. However, we do not ignore the importance of registration, as Real Reform for ECD has campaigns that are supporting registration, pulling down of barriers of registration, and still see the importance of registering. But when it comes to nutrition particularly, we are relying on the Constitution, which provides the right to nutrition to all children.
Quickly, the priorities, what should they be?
Well, the priorities, the 3 research papers really pull out recommendations for the state. Primarily what is within reach is influencing the pilot program that we're anticipating for 2024-2025. So we are hoping that the DBE really pulls on this research, pulls on the work being done by the multiple NGO, non-government organizations, civil society currently supporting nutrition, creating a nutrition program, testing provincial procurement, and delivery to unregistered ECD centers, also rolling out training, collecting data around nutrition. Another recommendation is an active, effective coordination and oversight mechanism that can look to the role players that everyone is doing their part in this work. It is not a one department job, but rather requires interdepartmental coordination to move this work forward.
Thank you so much for your time. Tsepo Maji is the coordinator at the Right to Early Childhood Development. Listening into the conversation is Lachi Katzen, who is a technical consultant for ECD Nutrition at the Department of Basic Education. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. What's your response to the argument that Tsepo Maji is making here? And also, while they're arguing that the legal status of an ECD shouldn't mean that a child's need to a nutritious food is then eliminated if the ECD is not registered.
Good afternoon, Aldrin, and thank you for the opportunity to respond to your guest. Treasury has made funds available for the Department of Basic Education to conduct a pilot study, and there are plans underway to introduce an early childhood development nutrition program. The department, of course, has been in touch with the organization that you've just been speaking to, and we welcome the research and the work that they've done so far, and we note it as well.
So with the pilot project, have you seen any change as yet, the impact that it's having on the lives of children?
Well, the pilot project is still in a planning phase. It is about to be introduced. It will be introduced in 2024-25.
2024-2025. Does the department believe that it has the capacity?
The department will definitely do its best, and the department has committed to introducing this program, and that is why the department isn't going full out all at once. The department will introduce this as a pilot program. There are many lessons to be learned, and therefore we will start and expand on the program over the next few years.
Yeah. How long do you expect the pilot project to run for, and by when do you expect to have this program being standardized?
The program will be initiated in 24-25, as I've said earlier.
Not the pilot, but the program itself.
The program itself will expand incrementally over the next few years.
Okay, over the next few years. Do you have a date at least by when do you expect it to be available nationally?
No, we don't have a specific date when this will be able to be rolled out nationally, but it will definitely be implemented incrementally, and we will definitely be able to expand gradually every year. Yeah.
Any projections in terms of the budget that is required for this program from the pilot phase and then into the fully fledged program?
Those figures will be made available in time to come.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Lache Katzen is a technical consultant for the ECD Nutrition at the Department of Basic Education. It is time for the news headlines.
Good afternoon. In the headlines, EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and the implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly, titled Removing the Israeli Embassy and Suspension of All Diplomatic Relations with Israel. Former President Jacob Zuma cited Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's public remarks about him in his latest filing to legally challenge the appointment of Zondo as the head of the judiciary. And protesting mine workers at the Blyvoor gold mine in Carltonville and Gauteng's Westland say they will forge ahead with the underground sit-in until mine management addresses their concerns. And Musa Greg House has your details on these and other stories at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And Rob Byrne is standing by with a traffic update.
Yes, stays heavy on Pretoria's N1 South on the run into Pumalani Plaza today. So coming in from Hammanskraal just after the Valmont-style exit, you hit a big backlog of traffic into some roadworks. Centurions N1 North, a crash after Boertste Avenue. That traffic's heavy from John Foster as you queue up towards the R21 highway. Crossing the Durban, a big fire event today at the Quarry Road settlement. There's a big backlog of traffic on Umgeni Road from Springfield Park, Macro through the N2 and down in towards that sort of Mountbatten Drive, Quarry Road area. Also in Durban, very heavy today, Bel Air Road southbound from Marick Turner all the way past the hospital down to the M7. The M7 from Titran's heavily backed up, leaving the bluff out towards the N2 highway. Cape Town, the main road, Cork Bay areas busy. At Muizenberg Central, busy both ways on the main road as well. And Central Cape Town, again, it's just that western half of the CBD that's jam-packed and some delays extending on High Level Road, or Strand Street, if you like, between High Level and Bait and Trucked in the CBD. That section of High Level busy both ways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
In your sports this hour, starting off with football, Bafana assistant coach Helman Kalele has been a notable absentee at the Cafe license course in Johannesburg this week. This is following being accepted for the course. SAFA technical director Walter Steenbach said that Kalele is missing the course because of his tight schedule with the senior national team who are in camp for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Benin and Rwanda. Bafana take on Benin at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban on Saturday. And then they travel to East Central Africa to face Rwanda on Tuesday. Then David Beckham says that England's win in the Women's European Championship last year has inspired a new generation of girls in the country to take up sports, and his own daughter is one of them. This year's Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand expanded for the first time from 24 to 32 teams and had record crowds and generated more than $570 million in revenue. Now, Beckham, who traveled to India this week as UNICEF's Goodwill Ambassador, said there was no reason why the women's game could not be as big as the men's going forward.
You know, without a doubt, you know, what I love about this this England team right now is, firstly, they want to be there. They want to play in these games. They're proud of playing for their country. I absolutely think we have a trophy in us at some point. I think Gareth has done an incredible job. We've got a bunch of young players being led by a great captain who still continues to score at every level.
All right, then a quick update with regards to the Cricket World Cup. Australia are now sitting on 118 for 3 after 18 overs. They need 95 runs from 32 overs to win this one against the Proteas, and we continue trusting that the Proteas will somehow make it through to the final. Still staying with cricket, New Zealand are confident that they have foundations in place to continue to compete with the elite at the World Cup, even if they could be without Kane Williamson and a few other generational talents when the next edition comes around. Skipper Williamson had no complaints about how the Black Caps were manhandled out of the semi-finals by India on Wednesday, possibly bringing to an end his hopes of ever raising the oldest limited overs World Cup trophy. The batting great, who has played in 4 World Cup semi-finals and 2 finals, will be 37 when Southern Africa hosts the 50-over showpiece in 2027, while strike bowlers Tim Southee and Trent Boult will be 38. Ending things off with rugby, the Lions coach Ivan van Rooyen has elected to continue with Sanele Nohamba at fly half for tomorrow night's 5th round United Rugby clash with Ulster at the Kings Park Stadium. Nohamba walked away with the official Man of the Match award after his star showing in the 24-23 win that has resuscitated what had been a faltering start to the Lions campaign. Jordan Hendrickse, who's also a high-promising player, but more of a specialist fly half than Nohamba is, will play off the bench in Belfast match. Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'm still broadcasting from the Cricket South Africa offices, and will definitely keep you up to date with the score. Right now, Australia are sitting on 118 for 3 after 18 overs. For SAFM Sport, I'm Tuming Khapele.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And time for a market update with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. So Life Healthcare's yearly results are out, and also let's look at Emira Properties Fund's interims.
Afternoon to you, Aldrin, and to the listeners. Yes, remember, Life Healthcare is the second largest private hospital operator in South Africa. That's after Netcare. And them being the preferred network provider for the medical aids drove strong demand, leading to higher utilization of their hospitals, and that itself delivering a strong paid patient day growth of 9.5%, group revenue up 10%, normalized earnings per share up 11%. But the group's overall earnings from continuing and discontinued operations have been impacted by higher interest cost and also non-trading items like that 971 million loss relating to the proposed sale of Alliance Medical Group, even though the guys will either pay a special dividend and or do a share buyback of almost 8.4 billion and reserve 2.4 billion for future growth, because they expect a windfall of almost 10.8 billion from the sale. But remember, they acquired them in 2016 for 14.2 billion. The share price is down almost 8%. And Emira, the guys are the owners of the Tramshed, Wanda Park Shopping Center, Kramerville Corner, and they also have exposure in the US. And despite the sluggish economic growth, the local portfolio remained resilient, with operating metrics mostly improving across all sectors. And the US continued to generally perform well. However, there have been certain larger tenant failures which impacted results negatively, and results also negatively impacted by higher interest rates. And their balance sheet remains healthy, and a weaker rand contributed positively to the value of Emira's US investments. The loan to value now sits at 41.2%, and directly had portfolio revenue up 12.5%, but profits as headline earnings per share down a whopping 90%, with dividend per share down 7.1%.
And tell us about local and international market developments.
Markets are taking more of a breather, and as we have seen that as yesterday we were halfway in the month of November, and the S&P was up 7%, the Dow was up 6%, and the local post is also up 7%. But as I said, today markets are taking a breather. The global fight against inflation has turned a corner, and falling inflation across industrialized countries opens the door for central banks to start cutting interest rates next year. And we've seen the US government shutdown has been averted as a temporary funding measure was approved that helped the likes of the US dollar to rebound from the sharp losses that we've seen earlier in the week as traders digested recent economic data. But the rand is still holding its ground, though a bit weaker today, and oil prices edged lower, extending losses from the previous session as signals of higher supply from the US met concerns over lackluster energy demand from China. Brent crude is down 1.5% at 79.80, and the yellow metal tick higher as treasury yields edge lower on expectations that central banks will pause hiking interest rates. And we see gold itself is up 0.7% at 1,973. Platinum is up 0.1% at 899. The DAX is up 0.6%. CAC is down 0.2%. FTSE down 0.7%. The Dow is also down 0.2%. S&P is flat. JC down whooping 1.8%. With our financials down almost 3%. Industrials down 2%. Resources down 0.7%. And the rand is 18.29 to the US dollar, 22.73 to the pound, and 19.89 to the euro.
Thank you so much. That's Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. We're taking your calls on 086 000 2032 and your voice notes on 0614 104 107.
The only talk radio afternoon drive show that makes sense. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear, right here on SAFM.
The EFF and ANC are standing on the right path, the path of justice. The EFF has always stood on the part of the people and the struggle of the people, and the ANC has brought freedom to the struggle of the people. A coalition of right-wing parties are now backing an apartheid state of Israel, where it's committing human right abuses, genocide. You know, you're talking about peace. For far too long, countries have tried to bring peace. Israel doesn't want peace. They have been bombing and killing Palestinians for more than 30 years. The only peace that Israel wants is a piece of Palestinian land.
Hello, Aldrin. Rian here from Pietermaritzburg. We've had all these studies done, including the one by this Harvard professor. With all due respect to him, a lot of what he said is so obvious, and but the problem is it's not obvious to our government. They don't care. It's not within their mandate. Their mandate is to enrich themselves and to pay lip service to the other people in South Africa. That's why it's going to be of no use unless this government is changed.
Let's go to the Northern Cape. KD, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone listening. I think that when it comes to the situation in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, I don't think that it's more about what we as South Africans perceive to be a struggle of Palestinians. It's more about what Israel has been dealing with. I think the first issue that we have to know is that when Israel was formed in the 1940s or so, the Arab countries gathered themselves. They decided they were going to bomb and destroy Israel. So the response of Israel today militarily cannot be separated from what history tells us. So the position of the South African government, I think that it is just an opportunity. They are trying to join their struggle to Palestine. It is not true.
How is it opportunistic when it's always been their stand to be in support of the Palestinians? As you heard Sinawa Tambo even speaking about Nelson Mandela and his position on the Palestine-Israeli question.
When did Nelson Mandela start to be in the armed struggle? After 1954. Before that, what was there? So there is no basis to say that the ANC is joining.
But when was the State of Israel established?
1948.
And Nelson Mandela joined politics when?
Nelson Mandela began to pronounce himself as a liberation hero in 1964, Revonia trial.
No, but when did he join politics?
He joined before that, Aldrin.
Yes.
But remember that the ANC was formed in the 1912 so on for the land, not for Israel.
What is the question around Palestine and Israel? Is it not a land question as well?
So now the land question is about Israel and Palestine has to be joined, not to our struggle. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
But it is the same thing about land.
Yes,
it is the question about land.
Yes, but now remember that we have to trace what is happening there from what our faith is saying, not only about what our
what
history
your faith is saying.
Remember that our history is bound to what our faith has said through the Bible.
What your faith is saying.
So our faith.
Your faith is saying that you must kill people.
No.
Oh,
that one is
okay.
never allowed.
Oh, okay.
Never. But what we are saying is that what we as South Africans have to say about what is happening there have to be joined to who we are, not to what the ANC is saying. But it is. So that's what I'm.
KD, there's from the Northern Cape. Mutubi is joining us from Limpopo. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you, Aldrin? Quickly, on the issue of the stance on by COSATU issuing a public, it's something like a bet between themselves and the EFF, right? In respect of their agitation to say that their members, mainly the teachers, should be made themselves available to be electoral officers. I mean, I'm just looking at this in the context of the fact that COSATU, as much the socio-economic conditions of the workforce it's improved. But then, with this high unemployment rate and the economy that is not doing well, why would a COSATU in its stature, if it still remains a true stature of for the workers, why would it, with this high unemployment rate, especially of the youth, still then agitating that those who already have jobs and have something that they can put on the table must still go and contest and compete with people who are unemployed? Why couldn't they just come out and say that those job opportunities of electoral officers and stuff like that, those are temporary. Then they can be then reserved for those that have opportunities.
I guess the question is, what's the role of unions when it comes to job creation? Mutubi? Okay, we've lost him there. Let's take your voice note, 0614-104107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Aldrin, good afternoon. Flores here from the Western Cape. Aldrin, just 2 weeks ago, we've flown our flags high with our chests out. But boy, oh boy, am I ashamed to call myself a cricket fan. Yet again, we choke again to Australia.
Yeah.
Man, disappointing. Yeah, and I wonder what Zizi Kodwa is going to do now with his ticket, if he's going to cancel it, because it doesn't look like he's flying to India anytime soon. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Well, let's give you an update with the score currently. It is 133 runs for 4 with 25.5 overs. Yeah, I don't know. So we need about 80, Australia needs about 80 runs from the 28.1 overs, and they move over to the next stage. I don't know. How do you feel? As a cricket fan, how do you feel right now? And do you also feel like the Proteas are being chokers once again? 0614-104107, and can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. This is Makwarela Shinyazo from Tembo. You know, as long as I agree with what the Chief Justice is saying about the state captured, that he criticizes the government, but he is taking it too far. You know, this man is always criticizing the government, the ANC-led government, but it looks like he is being used by the elite businesses to run a campaign against the ANC so that they want the ANC to lose power in 2024, and which is not good.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng.
I reflected on the lives of these men and said, Steve Biko could have been a medical doctor. Aubrey Mokwape, they could have been medical doctors, but for the sake of me and many others, they chose a path of justice. What challenges me all the time is there are multitudes out there who are unemployed, who are uneducated, people who from time to time go to bed without food. This is an opportunity to use this privilege, to use this position for the advancement of the cause of justice, because there is so much more that still needs to be done out there.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. #SAFMBTH.
It is 9 minutes now before 5 o'clock. We're in conversation next with Marisha Singh Naika, Director of Indie Africa and Heartlines Associate, who is a therapist as well as a pastor, as we build up towards the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We speak to Marisha, who will tell us more about the Interfaith Summit on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide that is currently underway in Benoni. At this summit, a joint statement of commitment to concrete actions to end GBVF will be launched, which is a symbol of commitment by the faith-based sector to take action on to prevent gender-based violence as well as femicide. Marisha now joining us on the line. Marisha, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and also good afternoon to the listeners.
Tell us about how you came up with this idea to also get the faith-based organizations around the table and also look at their role when it comes to preventing gender-based violence and femicide.
Okay, so the Faith Action to End Gender-Based Violence Collective was launched in June of 2020. It was in response to the increasing GBVF incidents during COVID-19 and lockdown. And it was also in response to launch of the National Strategic Plan on GBVF and femicide. Since we know that almost 85% of South Africans belong to a religious faith sector, we also know that then many people are affected by GBVF within our faith communities, and has different faith leaders, diverse. We have 8 different faith sectors that joined us today at the summit. We believe that we needed a unified voice coming together and saying, what can we do to mobilize the action of ending gender-based violence?
And have you noted any change in how the faith-based organizations are responding to this particular question? Because sometimes you're also dealing with couples that are actually married, people who do go to church as well, are part of our society. But then the people who are actually the presiding officers and leaders in church as well also come from the very same society where our conditioning and socialization is also informed around patriarchy.
Absolutely. And this is what we know, that in our faith communities, in our churches, in our temples, in our synagogues, that we have both the perpetrators and the victims. And often, as faith leaders, we had to admit and acknowledge that we have been part of the problem, that our sacred texts have been misused, that our social norms have been harmful, that we've used that patriarchy and the inequality between male and female, we've misused those things and has created even further harm. And so one of the first things that we recognize as faith leaders is for us coming together and admitting that and confessing that and saying, you know what, we failed. We haven't done enough. And what can we do differently? We want to do faith differently. We want to be making sure that we are challenging these harmful religious norms, the patriarchy that's coming from, interpreted from our religious texts, from our theologies. So yes, most definitely, it has been quite an amazing journey, but also lots of hard work. Especially when we're working in an interfaith movement, listening to each other, understanding each other, making room for different understandings, and then working together to see how we can move towards action.
And also mobilizing people in society as well to try and see how we can respond to this particular question. And I have to say, when I looked at your title as well, and the explanation being that you are a therapist as well as a pastor, is sometimes about how do we bring in the stuff that we learn from our careers to help us understand the roles that we play in different surroundings and different groupings among society to try and make the world a better place or make our country even a better place.
Absolutely. And as a therapist, you know, we know that in our country, wellness and mental health is such a huge issue. We are a nation of multiple traumas, intergenerational trauma. And we know that while faith spaces try to offer safe ones, sometimes we don't always do a good job. And that's what we want to make sure as faith leaders. How do we firstly be safe people and then offer safe spaces? And I think one of the important things is to be able to break kind of the silence, or, you know, the things that have been swept under the carpet. So to create those safe spaces for people just to talk, to share their pain, to unburden. And what we talk about in therapy, that if our pain is not transformed, it's transferred. And so it's transferred from one generation to the next. It's transferred in our relationships until we deal with some of that pain and trauma, some of the violences that we've experienced in different ways throughout our lives. And that's what we want to do as faith leaders in the Faith Action Collective, is to be able to create these safe spaces, to be safe people, so that we ourselves look at what we have done wrong, where we have, kind of had shortcomings or failings, and then how do we change that? How do we do right now, and fix what we've messed up in some ways, and making sure that, especially for both survivors and perpetrators, that we are able to work with both so that we can see transformation taking place.
Would the summit look at all at the role of the state? Unfortunately, of course, we know that the power that the state has, and also the role of the justice system.
Absolutely. So we at the summit did have, different partners that were present with us. And we did have some government departments that also supported this. And we are really looking to working and collaborating with them. We do need a multi-stakeholder response and support for this to be one that really builds the movement and one that is sustained. So it's also speaking truth to power as the faith sector, to those that are in power, to those that are holding the power, but then also saying, look, this is some things that we can do. This is what we can offer. And what are the resources that also can be shared to make sure that this work is moved ahead.
Thank you so much for your time. Marisha Singh Naika is the director of the Indie Africa and Heartlines Associate. She is also a therapist as well as a pastor. 0614-104107. You can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. After 5 o'clock, it is the interview in conversation with Fetsisani Panderani, who is the Solicitor General, as we look at a statement by the Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, who has said that he had to rely on private law firms who work with him on a pro bono basis to help him defend his report on state capture, and that is because around concerns that he has raised with the functioning of the office of the state, with the state attorney, issues around money as well. And remember also that other report, the court judgment, constitutional court judgment actually, in relation to a home affairs matter, where the home affairs minister actually then decided to not use the state attorney because he believed that they were conflicted. 0614-104107, and you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Malema calls for sanctions against Israel and mine workers to continue with sit-in. Good day to you. The EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and implementing of sanctions against Israel. He was speaking during a debate sponsored by his party in the National Assembly titled Removing the Israeli Embassy and Suspension of All Diplomatic Relations with Israel. This as Israel seems unrelenting in its onslaught on Gaza, where thousands of civilians have been killed. In recent weeks, marches in support of either Palestine and Israel have taken place in different parts of South Africa. Malema's called on the ANC-led government to take a stand against Israel.
We call on the Ramaphosa ANC government to shut down the Israeli embassy in Pretoria and end diplomatic relations with that brutal apartheid Israel regime. In the name of our own constitutional values, we must end these relations until human rights of Palestinians are respected, promoted and protected.
Meanwhile, Malema added that supporting the Israeli occupation of Palestine and the accompanying brutality and violence is a betrayal of the values of our constitution.
As survivors of apartheid ourselves, we must fight on the side of the Palestinian people and always be on the side of the weak. We therefore calling on members of parliament and the people of South Africa to support the call to remove the Palestinian Israeli embassy in South Africa. We can't share a territory with murderers.
Former President Jacob Zuma cited public remarks by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo about him in his latest filing to legally challenge the appointment of Zondo as the head of the judiciary. Zuma filed a supplementary affidavit in the High Court in Pretoria stating that Zondo's remarks indicate, among other things, that he's unfit to hold office and that he unnecessarily indulges in political commentary. The former president approached the High Court earlier this year in a bid to have Chief Justice Zondo's appointment reversed. Kani Mapanga reports.
Chief Justice Zondo was appointed to the position in April 2022 following interviews with the Judicial Service Commission. This was despite the JSC recommending then Supreme Court of Appeal Judge President Mandisa Maya for the position. In the latest court papers, the former president includes utterances by the Chief Justice at the National Anti-Corruption Dialogue and a television interview, as well as the subsequent condemnation that followed. Zuma argues in papers that the conduct of the Chief Justice is ongoing and quote-unquote likely to be repeated, unless the relief he seeks is granted. He goes on to state that lodging a complaint to the JSC, which is chaired by the Chief Justice, has quote-unquote proven to be a futile exercise. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
17 people have been injured following a collision between a car and a minibus taxi near the FNB Stadium in Nasrec, south of Johannesburg. It's alleged the driver of the minibus transporting learners was driving under the influence of alcohol. Traffic Police spokesperson Obed Sibas.
We warn drivers, including learner transport drivers, operators, to refrain from transporting learners whilst under the influence of alcohol, and also to drive with excessive speed for the circumstance. Gauteng Traffic Police, we will leave no stone unturned. We will deal decisively with arrogant, inconsiderate drivers. Be warned.
Demonstrating mine workers at the Blyvoor gold mine in Carletonville, west of Johannesburg, say they'll forge ahead with their underground sit-in until mine management addresses their concerns. More than 600 workers are believed to have staged a sit-in underground, demonstrating over a number of issues, including the non-payment of their 13th checks. Miner Maxwell Totori.
They are underground because the company promised us that we will get 600 every month, and then December time we'll get 600, and that money is for profit sharing. And then now the company says they don't have enough funds to pay us. And then we also have the 13 check that we usually get on December, and then they also say that they're gonna take that away too. And the other thing, they are also going to our sleep out. They are taking our sleep out. And then also they are talking about that those guys who are actually on a stay on underground, they are threatening to fire them.
The top story, the EFF leader Julius Malema has made a global call for the boycott, disinvestment and implementing of sanctions against Israel. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khuz.
In your sports this hour, Proteas aiming for a spot in the 2023 Cricket World Cup final. I'm still out at the Cricket South Africa offices in Melrose this afternoon. Australia are currently sitting on 143 for 5, and they are chasing 213. Then we hear from Kaiser Mdaung on his opinion on fan violence problem, and Mbonambi faces 6 months on the sidelines with injury. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays heavy today on Pretoria's N1 South. This is coming from Hammanskraal, just after Valmanstal Road. You're going to hit a big queue into roadworks at Pumaladi Plaza. Police dealing with an incident on the M1 North between Botha Avenue and the R21. That's a heavy queue almost back to the Brockfontein interchange. And if you're driving south on Joburg's N3, a crash near the cement factory going south. That traffic piling right back through Galulis and right back past Alex and into the Limbo Park area. That's a heavy one today. Durban, the fire at Quarry Road settlement causing major backlogs from Umgeni Road, sort of Alpine Road territory, Springfield Park all the way through towards Reservoir Hills. A lot of traffic southbound Queen Nundy Drive to Spaghetti Junction on the N2. The N3 is heavily congested all through Spaghetti Junction between basically Pinetown and Sherwood. There is a bit of rain moving into the Durban region as well today. Cape Town Marine Drive, reasonably busy as you line up from Milnerton all the way out to Dolphin Beach, and still fairly busy on the main road leaving South Peninsula. The worst of the traffic between Cork Bay and Central Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Beyond the Headline on SAFM, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It is 7 minutes after 5 o'clock, and it's time for the interview. We're in conversation next with the Solicitor General of the country. That is Fedzisani Panderani, who is the Solicitor General, to speak about the state of the State Attorney and asking the question, is it still fit for purpose? So we examine the scope and complexity of the work in the State Attorney offices. Some of you may recall that earlier this year, post the release of the State Capture Report, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo expressed grave concern about the state's capacity to defend the court applications that were aimed at reviewing the State Capture Report, as he was worried that the State Attorney is not sufficiently capacitated to defend the report. However, I must also state that it is not only him who is worried about the state of affairs in relation to the functions of the offices of the State Attorney. So today we are joined by the Solicitor General, who will talk to us about the important role that this office plays in the state litigation, as we will also look at it in relation to the different organs of state and what he intends to do to improve the level and the quality of services offered by the offices of the State Attorney. It is a major one, because even the Democratic Alliance had issued a statement with regards to the remarks that were made by the Chief Justice. The DA saying that it's very concerning that you have a situation where the Chief Justice has to rely on private attorneys to defend the State Capture Report on a pro bono basis. So you can just imagine the issues that also raises in terms of private law firms actually having to come to the aid of the Chief Justice of the country, because he's no longer the Deputy Chief Justice of the country. He is actually the Chief Justice of the country, the head of the judiciary, the head of one arm of the state. And now he finds himself in a position where he has to rely on a pro bono basis on private law firms to help him defend the State Capture Report, which a number of applications have been brought to actually place the report on, to put the report on review or review some of the findings that have been made in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry's investigation. I'd love to hear from you as well. What concerns come to mind when you think about what the Chief Justice have to say about the State Attorney not being able to defend the State Capture Report? And then on the other hand, you have our Chief Justice relying on private law firms that will, of course, be litigating in our courts in other matters, perhaps not in front of him, but in other matters as well. And those are law firms that are actually assisting our Chief Justice because the State Attorney can't. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032. We're just trying to quickly connect with Fedzisani Panderani, who is the Solicitor General of the country, as we look at the state of the State Attorney's office and is it really fit for purpose. 0614-104107. You can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086-000-2032.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and the SFM listeners. I hear that the former president is now trying to challenge the appointment of a Chief Justice. I remember, if my memory still serves me well, the former president said that he doesn't have money to fight these court cases. But I wonder now who's funding him, because it seems he's challenging each and everything that happens in this country each and every day. I think the former president should just bear in mind that it's over about him. He will never be the president of this country again. So he should just relax and enjoy his pension.
Good afternoon, Adrian. Good afternoon to the SFM listeners. Adrian, I know there is very thin line between all the other issues and political issues. There's always a link, indirectly or directly so. But the judiciary should try to avoid, by all means, not to find themselves playing in the political space. Sewanele from Pretoria.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and your team and the fellow listeners. Did I just hear one listener saying that Chief Zondo Chief Justice Zondo is running a campaign against the ANC. No, nobody needs to do that. They are doing a splendid job themselves. Look at the ministers. They don't want to be held accountable for nothing. Look at the crime rate in the country. Then we have a minister running around like a headless chicken doing a campaign for his position. They don't hold each other accountable. They've got their comrades running tenders, doing shoddy jobs. You know, they don't need anybody to run any negative against themselves. They are digging their own grave. And like I've always said, ANC cannot gang up against us and think that they're going to win. They just cannot. And just like I said, Mandela did say that if they do the same thing that apartheid did to you, vote them out. Oh, they're going to feel how it's like to be on the outside.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Smack and Durban. Aldrin, very interesting to note. The controversies regarding the newly elected Chief Justice, the controversy starts from the time he was elected, being the worst candidate and being propelled to be our Chief Justice. He fared dismally in the interviews. We were all listening. I'm not making this up. Everybody was listening. He was the worst candidate by far, but he became our Chief Justice. Now, I'm just looking stark contrast between him and the previous Chief Justice. Chief Justice, I had much more respect for Mogoeng than I do have for Zondo. Zondo is mad, in a cloud of controversy. I think he should have enjoyed his last 2 years as a judge instead of wasting time as a Chief Justice. Thank you.
#SAFMBTH. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons, right here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. With me, KG Mweketi.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Well, we're struggling to get a hold now of the Solicitor General, but let's take your calls in the meantime. 086 0002032. You can also drop me a voice note on 0614-104-107 and an axe at Aldrin Sampear. Let's go to David, who's joining us from the Northern Cape. Good evening.
Hi, Aldrin. How are you?
Good, David. How's it?
I'm okay, my brother. Look, Aldrin, before I go into what I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to ask a question. Who is qualified? Who is qualified to determine who is a terrorist and who is not a terrorist? Because the reason that I'm asking that, it seems as if the West and US determine a particular group from a particular region as a terrorist, and then the whole world should actually accept those people as terrorists. And whilst those people, because Aldrin, I'm talking out of experience, even our struggle in South Africa, when the wing of the ANC, controversies, Upland and so forth, were labeled as terrorists under the apartheid regime and supported by the US and the West, by the way. So now the Palestinians have got a force of their own that is fighting for the rights of Palestinians. Now they are labeled and they are portrayed to be a terrorist organization that is actually there to harm unarmed civilians and so forth. So my view, Aldrin, I support the stance by our government to say that the human genocide that Israel has committed against people of Palestine is unforgivable. It's something that we never imagined in this era, in our time, as a democracy, a global democracy that is living to strive for each and every human life to exist. And secondly, Aldrin.
Okay, I need you to make the point quickly then, David.
I'll do that. Secondly, Aldrin, I'm very disappointed in the Jewish community for supporting Israel because the Jews actually forget that they went through a very, very same pain that the Palestine people are going through when the Holocaust happened to Jewish people under the regime of the Germans. Now today, they are the ones that are supporting Israel in killing innocent people, of which the majority are women and children that are suffering.
David there from the Northern Cape. Let's go to Polokwane. Tebogo, good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm good, Andrew. I just want to comment on the Jacob Zuma issue with the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Because he served this term, and the former President President Thabo Mbeki never ever criticized him. Now the foundation wrote a letter to say the current president is incompetent by appointing the Chief Justice. You see, Aldrin, to me it means that even the panel was incompetent because they never showed the interview score to say Judge Maya scored so much. And then
I think Julius did speak about it, and Julius is a member of the JSC.
Yes, but now, what are the prerogatives of the president in terms of the constitution?
but what you're saying is wrong because somebody from the JSC actually did say that Justice Zondo scored, I think, something like 3.
3 in terms of votes, or
in terms of votes.
Yes, but now I just want to comment about that because to say there is no drawing of lots when coming to interviews, they must tell us the scores. And then if they score if their score is equal, then that's when they can vote. But now they use their old sentiment because they don't want the Judge Zondo to say, let's vote.
I don't know. What do you mean?
I'm saying, why do they have to use votes if they are left with 2 people? They didn't interview 2 people, but they recommended 2 people. Now, why do you have to use votes to say, we need this person? We don't need one. Let's vote.
I don't understand, eh?
I'm saying, why do they have to vote? Because they must say, in terms of scoring, not votes, this one scored so much, and then this one scored so much. Then we recommend this one.
Yeah.
Just like when you go for a job interview.
I would say, why must that process actually be behind closed doors? Why aren't the deliberations also made public?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because if the interviews are going to be public, let the deliberations be public as well. Like we've seen, for instance, with the appointment of Chapter 9 heads of Chapter 9 institutions, the public protector as well. You know, those who don't like the candidate or is not convinced that this person is a perfect person, they raise those issues right there and there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, why is the foundation always saying His Excellency, but when they come to the Cyril Ramaphosa, they say the president. It's just
I'm not picking, man. Okay. Tebukhon from Polokwane. Let's go to Pili, who's joining us from Kronstadt. Good evening.
Good evening, Aldrin.
Sure. Sorry, is it Pili or Pele?
Pele.
Pele. Okay, apologize. Welcome.
No, Aldrin, I just want to comment about this issue of EFF saying that certain members must not become or must not assist in managing the elections. Are they presupposing that everybody in SADC is a member of the ANC? And as such, they will not use the rules of the IEC in running the elections. And how many years have there been elections? And has there ever been a proven case where there was vote rigging?
Yeah, there has been. There has been. I think there was some in KZN as well.
But my argument is that not all SADC members are ANC members.
Yes.
And if maybe they were arguing that leaders of SADC should not become part of the elections because it is mandatory for leaders of SADC to become ANC members, then then he could hold water. But really, it's an old song that I think.
Yeah,
like
but it's not mandatory for SADC members to be members of the ANC. The union itself.
No, I'm saying leaders.
Sorry?
I'm saying leaders.
Oh, you're speaking about the leaders.
SADC.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you can't say every member of SADC is an ANC
member. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
okay.
Saying,
even though the organization itself is a supporter of the ANC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Pele there joining us from Kroonstad. 0614-104-107 and an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Get ready for an adventure of a lifetime with SABC TV Licenses Ultimate Competition. Feel the pulse-pounding excitement of a Bundesliga match live on an all-expenses-paid journey you'll never forget. Or embrace the rhythm of your dreams at the Coachella Music Festival. The choice is yours. A football fan's paradise or a music lover's haven. Simply pay your TV license, then head to www.winaholiday.sabctvlicenses.co.za for a chance to win big. And don't forget, there are incredible weekly prizes up for grabs too. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion. Is for Ikoko, who steady chill on neutral on a downhill just to save fuel. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Have you ever noticed how unique the rugby ball is?
You should check out Head High.
The rise of junior rugby stars Mana and Tai.
Vince is not just their stepfather, he's their coach.
Catch the brothers' dream of the black jersey, Head High, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
Hashtag Rugby Drama Galore. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. The theme of the lecture is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law in South Africa. Has corruption and malfeasance eroded the moral fabric of the democratic dispensation? The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Taking your calls on 086 000 2032 and your voice notes on 0614 104 107. Still struggling with the Solicitor General, so we'll try to see once we do get ahead of him. Once we do get a hold of him, to move the interview to a different date. Let's go to Perseus joining us from Matlosana. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Sampear. How are you, my brother?
Good. How's it?
Jambo Africa, man, happy Disability Month. Hey, Mr. Sampear, I'm one of the disability. I want to talk about this month, man. Hey, Mr. Sampear, things are tough for us, man. I don't know what's going on. All the government entity, they are quiet about this month. I don't know why. The message that I received from the group chat, they say they will come to pick up on weekends so that you must go to check who are registered. It is our government. They recognize that when coming to the election only. After that, there is nothing. I don't know what's going on. Who is in charge for disability? Because they keep saying lots of things about disability. Even
Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma.
You know that I'm not qualifying for RDP housing here in Matlosana as a disability. I don't know what did I done. They keep saying we're on the program of the mayor. Like even as we speak, there is an allocation that taking place in Extension 25 and Jacaranda. But I'm not one of those people who are getting the piece of land there. I don't know what's going on, who I must go to fight. I do have a letter. I talk with the mayor, but there is nothing coming out for us. Even on coming to job opportunity, you can attach a CV with medical report, write your disability. Just waste of time. They say they will take it's 5% of disability from all the posts as general workers, but there's no such a thing.
What do you want to do, though, Percy?
Like the thing, Mr. Sampear, I'm struggling with the RDP housing because of the
what do you want to do as a job?
As at any general work so that I can do because
Percy,
of...
no. Let's not do that. Let's not do
Because
that.
Mr. Sampear,
What are your passions? What is this thing that you'd love to do if you were given the opportunity to do it?
If I can get opportunity, I would just like maybe to work on the general work in the municipality or in the Department of Health or in agriculture because of things are tough. I have a kid that I need to feed. I'm paying almost 2.4 for the school fees, and in government I'm receiving 2,200 for the disability. Things are tough. Because I used to work as a normal man. After they declare me, things are bad for me. But I want to act like a normal man.
So what skill do you have?
From skills, Aldrin, it's only grade 11.
No, not education, but your skills. What skill do you have?
I can say I've been merchandiser before as in the retail. Yeah, I know a lot about marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that things do work out for you. But my advice also, Percy, is and you know I can only imagine the state that you are in, and also the desperation that comes with it, is to also think about what vision is it that you have for yourself, what vision is it that you have for your child as well, and perhaps how do you find people who are able to plug into the vision. If Percy, for instance, if you were to say, Percy, that I would love to, let's say, for instance, manufacture shoes. Who knows, maybe somebody out there who's in the shoe manufacturing industry would be able to respond to that. So that's what I'm saying, is find that thing that drives you, the thing that you really love, the passion that you really have, and perhaps out of that you're able to find an opportunity, and the listeners and the people who are listening to this conversation are able to help you where you can. But I'm going to ask you to do this, Percy. Think about it. And then maybe tomorrow give us a call again and then share with us what it is that you want to do, and let's see if there's anyone who's able to assist you, and let's see how we can be able to assist you as well. But go and think about it.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Go and think about it. Thank you so much there. Percy from Matlosane. William is joining us from Pretoria. William, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Aldrin. How are you?
Good. How's it?
Good, man. Just a quick one on Israel and Hamas war, man. You know, it's devastating to see what is going on, especially in Gaza. You know, but you know, I'm always having these questions in my mind to say what were the intentions of, you know, the Hamas when they entered into Israel on the 7th of October. What is it that they wanted to achieve? That is number one. Number two, you know, we are following the resolutions that our government want to take here in South Africa, in as far as, you know, checking out the Israel embassy, you know. But, you know, I have been monitoring the situation in Africa. You know, I see this one has drawn our government much attention to an extent that they're expelling the Israel embassy and all that. But yet we are failing to take a resolution on our neighboring countries, you know, like your Zimbabwe, your Congo. More people are dying every day in Zim, every day in Congo. And these people are running into South Africa. These are our brothers and sisters. Why are we failing? Why is our government failing to take a resolution? For example, let's look at the elections that happened, you know, in Zimbabwe. We could see elections have been happening there time and again. It's always the ZANU-PF, and everyone knows that the ZANU-PF have been rigging the elections, and our brothers and sisters are suffering.
Okay.
Why can't our government take a proper stand?
William, we need to go to the news headlines. Actually, tomorrow, the European Union will be releasing their final report on the recently held Zimbabwean elections. It is a minute after 5:30, time for the news headlines. Good evening, Greg.
Thank you, Aldrin, and good evening to you. In the headlines, the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation has again repeated South Africa's call for an immediate ceasefire in the Middle East. The Gauteng Education MEC says his department will implement the findings of a report into the death of a learner from a primary school in Thokoza, east of Johannesburg. And the Ethiopian president says Africa needs to industrialize in order to boost its economic growth. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And a final traffic update with Rob Byrne.
Yeah, it stays busy today on Joburg's N3 going south. It's this collision down by the cement factory in Germiston. The backlog is right through to Alex. And, of course, behind that, the N12 and R24 routes heavily queued coming into the N3 Galilees. Still dealing with the incident just north of Botha Avenue on the N1. There's a backlog of traffic as you head slowly through that area towards the R21. And the N1 approaching Pumalani Plaza southbound, a really heavy backlog today because of roadworks. Durban, N2 south is heavy. Queen Nandi Drive to Spaghetti Junction into the roadworks. The N2 north, a breakdown before Mshlanga, so that's heavy again today from Kumashi. The M19 passing Quarry Road after the earlier fire. That traffic is starting to move. That's the first time it's been moving for a long time. And Cape Town reasonably heavy going out towards Tableview today. The Marine Drive section queues from around about sort of Milnerton's Woodbridge Island area. From there all the way through to Dolphin Beach. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Good afternoon to you again. We're still out at the Cricket South Africa offices in Melrose this afternoon for the Cricket World Cup semi-final between the Proteas and Australia. And talking about Australia, the Aussies are currently sitting on 174 for 5 after 33 overs. They need 39 runs from 102 balls. So you can just imagine all the people that are here in Melrose, how they are feeling, because we are just hoping that South Africa makes it through to the final. But I'm here with Banyana captain Thembi Kgatlana, who's also here to support the Proteas. Thembi, how are you doing this afternoon? Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon to me and to the listeners. I'm well. I'm a bit anxious because of the game, but I'm doing well, thank you.
I mean, just earlier on, you were telling me that you don't like watching other people play because you feel like you want to get in there.
Yo, kuraf. Kuraf. But, hey, I don't even know what to say because this is very anxious. I got a chance to watch rugby earlier on. And I'm anxious right now. I don't know what to say or to think, but I'm hoping that we can do our best. I mean, the odds are against us, but we can't give hope until the last minute, you know. So yeah.
Sure. I mean, we're really hoping that, I don't know, a miracle happens or something. But yeah, Australia is now sitting on 174 for 5. And for you, for a change, you're on the other side. Usually you see the fans supporting you, and now we are supporting the Proteas. I'm sure the support, or if they were to see the videos of us being out here today, it would mean a lot for them out there.
Yeah, it's important. It's a catch. Wait, sorry. Oh,
we just...
yeah?
Yes! Woo!
All right. Sorry. I forgot about that.
So with all the noise, Australia just lost a wicket. So we're sitting on 174 for 6 after 33 overs. And everyone is just ecstatic. And we continue praying that the Proteas somehow win this one. You were still saying?
Yeah, I was saying that it's important to get support from everyone in the country. I think it's also important to represent the national team, whether you play football or you play rugby or you play cricket. You know, when you are there on the field or anywhere in the world representing the national team, and you get videos of people showing their love and support to you, it means a lot, because I mean, they're in India. I can't assume there's many South Africans there, but the videos that we send must, be able to help them get a little bit of confidence and remind them that they're representing their country.
Absolutely, and obviously that's one thing that we've also been doing, supporting Banyana with the qualifiers for the Olympics. It would definitely mean a lot for you guys as the players to qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah, it's a big one, especially that we didn't qualify the last time. I think we know we don't need any motivation of why we cannot qualify for the Olympics because we know how big the tournament is, and we know that we are a team that always wants to play at the highest stage in women's football tournaments. So I think this is something that we need based on the fact that we didn't qualify last time, so we are looking forward to it.
Tembi, let me let you go and enjoy the rest of the game. We're really hoping that the Proteas do well in this one. But just looking at other sports in football, Kaizer Chiefs chairman Kaizer Motaung believes that the time has come for the Premier Soccer League to review how they're dealing with incidents for hooliganism at the stadium and not only target the clubs. Motaung was responding to questions on the fan violence that has engulfed Amakhosi this season. Chiefs were forced to play their DStv Premiership game against Cape Town Spurs last week at FNB Stadium behind closed doors as part of the punishment for their fans' behavior. In rugby, Bongi Mbonambi could be sidelined for 6 months due to a knee injury, and the injury forced the 32-year-old to leave the field early in the World Cup final victory over New Zealand in Paris last month. South Africa's next play in July next year, hosting Ireland in a 2-test series. The Irish beat the Springboks in a World Cup pool match but lost to New Zealand in the quarterfinals. And the action continues here at Cricket South Africa as we watch this match between the Proteas and Australia. Remember, if South Africa make it through to the final, it will literally be history because most of the time they've been going out in the semi-finals, so we hope that they do well. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for the day. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Khatele Mudimugyo.
Rand Water is concerned about the significant increase of water consumption in its areas of supply. The increase in water consumption is putting severe strain on Rand Water's distribution network. To save water, please do not wash your cars with hose pipes. Use buckets. Water your garden with sprinklers between sunset and sunrise. Do not wash your pavements with hose pipes. Use brooms. Repair your leaking taps. Cover your swimming pools to avoid quick evaporation. Shower instead of bathing in a tub.
This message is sponsored by Rand Water in partnership with City of Joburg, City of Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane.
Buying a new TV? You'll need a paid-up TV license. Need to check your balance? No sweat at all. You just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 for fast, effective balance inquiries. Secure your legal viewing fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
Life is full of challenges, and when they come your way, learn to whack your way through it.
Yeah.
My father and my mother were highly disciplined people. I remember him saying, I have decided to deny myself whatever others are enjoying, to accumulate enough money so that any of my children who wants to study would have the resources available to study so that they don't have to suffer the way I have had to suffer.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it's time for a MoneyWeb market update. Suren Naidu is in for Jimmy Moyaha this evening. Suren, good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Suren, I have to say, by the way, I really love the property pod.
That's good to hear.
really love the property pod. And by the way, the conversation with Chris Tyson as well. I find it extremely fascinating that you find somebody who lives in Durban, travels to Joburg, and he spends his weekdays in Joburg and then travels back to Durban every weekend.
Well, Cape Town knows how to punt itself, but a lot of people travel from that North Coast area. He stays in Durban, but from Ballito, there are a lot of semi-migrants that come to Joburg and go back to KZN on the weekends. So, yeah.
Well, so, yeah, like he was saying, that a lot of familiar faces that he sees at the airport every Mondays and Fridays. But anyway, tell us about what's coming up on the MoneyWeb Market Update.
Coming up on the show, we'll kick off and delve into the major port delays at the Port of Durban. We'll be speaking to the KZN Growth Coalition for an update on that issue. We also had a number of companies bringing out results today, Aldrin, including Life Healthcare, Investec, and Emira Property Fund. The CEOs of Life Healthcare and Emira are on tonight's show. On the Investec side, we have Investec Bank's boss chatting to us. The JSE closed weaker today, but to tell us more is MoneyWeb correspondent Henko Kriya. Henko, over to you.
Thank you, Sirene. Good evening to you and Aldrin, and good evening to all the listeners. Yes, if we start off by looking at what's going on overseas, European markets still starting their day, really not getting out of the block so far. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq still unchanged. It's only the Dow Jones that's showing a bit of movement and currently trading about 0.3% weaker. But European stocks closed quite mixed today, with the FTSE 100 in London finishing 0.9% weaker. The DAX in Germany finished 0.6% stronger, and then again the CAC 40 in France finishing 0.2% lower. Unfortunately, a similar picture here by us on the JSE, with the all-share index finishing 1.4% down today, and that was at a level of 73,737 points. Then the financial index also dropped by 2.5%. The industrial index 1.8% weaker. It's only the resources index that decided here in the 11th hour, right at the end of the day of trading, to finish in the green, but only by about 0.1%. If we have a look at some individual stocks, we see that Naspers finished 3.5% weaker. First Rand lost 3% today. Prosus as well as Standard Bank each 2.5% down, and Glencore and Anglo finished 1% weaker. Also, you mentioned the Life Healthcare Group today lost 7.5%. Growthpoint and Pick n Pay each finished 5.5% down. Mr Price, Remgro and the MultiChoice Group each lost 5%, and Hyprop, Redefine as well as Nedbank finished the day 4% weaker. If we look for some companies that gave strong performances today, not many of them, but you would find Amplats that finished 3.5% up. Reinet and 91 each gained 2.5%, and Implats, Telkom as well as Afrimat each gained 1% at the end of the day. If we move over to the commodities market, you'll see that the price of gold currently $1,973 an ounce. Silver is now trading at $23.90. Platinum on the dot, $900 an ounce, and palladium now trading at $1,034. Brent crude now currently trading at $80 a barrel. And if we have a look at the exchange rate, now you'll pay 18 Rand 32 for a US dollar, 22 Rand and 80 cents for a pound, 19 Rand 90 for a euro, and 11 Rand 90 for an Australian dollar. A Bitcoin trading at $36,700, and that's more or less 692,000 Rand. Serene, that in short is how your markets performed today.
Thanks, Enko. Back to Aldrin at SAFM Studios.
Thank you so much. Suren Naidu is back again just after 6 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 086 000 2032. You can drop me a voice note on 0614 104 107 and an X at Aldrin Sampear.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Let's just quickly give you an update with the cricket as it stands currently with the semi-finals. This is the second semi-finals, that is Australia taking on the Proteas currently. 177 runs for 6. Australia needs at least 36 runs from the 89 balls that are left to clinch a space in the finals. 0614 104 107 and an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hi Aldrin. So the Israeli Defense Force killed the head of the South African Gift of the Givers Gaza mission in Gaza. John Stearns has tweeted that he thinks there should be an investigation. Stearns then rushed to the Ukraine to do a fact-finding mission. We suggest he goes to Gaza to go do a fact-finding mission as well. On the other hand, is SANEF still in existence? 50 journalists targeted and killed in Gaza? Not a tweet, a peep, or anything else out of SANEF about this. Who's funding SANEF now?
Aldrin, do you remember Judge Mukweng's joke by refusing to be assisted to scan and automate the dockets in the courts, saying it cannot be done by private company and Americans?
Yeah.
What happens today? They are still in papers. Dockets are still getting lost. Dockets are still getting stolen. Dockets are sold by the police. But if they were scanned and going into the future, everything was automated, that theft was not going to be there anymore. And our system was, if the offices are down on fire, everything goes down. If there is floods and rain, everything is leaking. Look at Polokwane. During the time of the so-called Malimas case, the docket got disappeared. They were burned down. And people say because of his case. Rightfully or wrongfully so. But if we scan it, regardless of who help us, South African courts will be fine. Gordon Polokwane.
Yeah, well, Gordon, that is the problem, right? Do you just accept the money irrespective from where the money comes from? And remember that was the concern that the then Chief Justice had raised over then, saying that he rejected that 600 million rand offer because of concerns that have been raised. That what does it at all contribute to a perception of partiality if the judiciary accepts private donations to help equip itself with the functionality as well as the type of software that is used in the 21st century? Remember, even with the donations to the NPA, people have raised concerns around that as well. LG is joining us from Greenstone. Good evening.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm actually so happy that majority of the people that I've been speaking to actually support the year on against SAT, because you cannot have these people that are employed actually having a monthly, payment, having to want to work all the employment opportunities. There's a whole lot of kids that are not working. Some of whom have got, university degrees and what have you, that are loitering. You have these guys that are getting paid every month, wanting to take that small opportunity that should be or can be given to somebody else. I don't see any. You don't have to be an EFF member or a supporter for you to see the logic in what the EFF is trying to say. Because honestly speaking, I don't understand why these guys want to, to take that small job that, can be given to someone to go and buy a loaf of bread for their family. I don't understand. Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the ANC and the EFF supporting each other as far as Palestine is concerned. Well, unfortunately, the ANC cannot be trusted. We've been down this road before with the land issue. So anybody that is excited about the ANC supporting the EFF has got something coming. So,
yeah. You think that the ANC could push for an amendment to the motion and then say on the basis that the way the motion is crafted or drafted that they won't be voting in support of it?
Listen, Aldrin, watch and see.
Let's see what happens on Tuesday. LG there from Greenstone. Thank you. Zwelibanzi is joining us from Esotwana.
How are you?
Good. How's it, Zwelibanzi?
Yeah, I'm fine, man. Listen, I'm from Sodwana Bay. That is the north coast of KZN. It's a very, very lovely, beautiful place. One day you have to come because you are my favorite presenter.
You must host me.
I will do it.
Sure.
Okay, Adrian, listen, I'll be short because by nature I'm short as well. There is something I want to say here. Number one, if the Christian, I'm a Christian, all right? I'm a Christian. And if the Christians think that if the Hamas are attacking the Christians when they are attacking the Jews, that is a lie. totally a lie. All right? These men of God, they don't have to go around spreading lies to the people. And these, what do you call from DA and everybody, Mr. from Freedom Front Plus, those guys who are Jews who have been given the mandate to persecute the Palestinians, they are reading the Quran, the Quran, whatsoever. They are not. They are Judaism. They are not Christians, so they don't have to put us, because right now the Christians have escalated the fire of Palestinian killings.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. I am meaning to say the Christians are escalating the power of the Palestinians being killed by the Israelites.
How?
As if they are a chosen nation.
How are the Christians doing that?
You know why I'm saying that? Because the Christians right now, they are thinking that all the people who are doing that right now, all the people who have been attacked by the Hamas, they are the Christians. No, they are not the Christians. So the people have to come to light and to tell the people as well that these are not Christians. These are the Judaism people, and they are very, very specific to destroy these people, the Palestinian people. That is the land of the Palestinians. If you go to
Zwelibans, I'm a bit lost. Unfortunately, I don't understand the point that you're making there. But we need to quickly wrap up. I just need to take another call quickly. Sheikh is joining us from Durban. Good evening.
Good evening, Aldrin. The gentleman that spoke about Steenhuisen going to Gaza for the fact-finding.
Yes.
I don't think it'll be possible because Steenhuisen believes in lies. He was worried about Russia and Ukraine. I don't think there's very much Zionist Jews in Ukraine or Russia, but the fact of the matter is they do not like the Palestinians or the Muslims. They won't do that because they were quite all along. They are very biased.
Is this now the DA that you're saying?
They are very biased. They won't do that.
But there are Muslims in the DA, right?
Yes, there are Muslims in the DA, but who's Steenhuisen? Steenhuisen is one of the guys that was involved in this country regarding apartheid, and we fought for apartheid. We're fighting apartheid.
How was he involved?
Palestine are also fighting apartheid. And
how was John
Steenhuisen
involved? The
gentleman also that spoke about Israel being the chosen land. He must get his facts straight because Moses took the people out of Egypt. There was a promised land, but the people were already there. Like South Africa had people, those people were already there.
Okay.
The Jews invaded there. Thank you very much.
Sheikh there from Durban. By the way, that tweet from John Steenhuisen, he says the killing of the office head of Gift of the Givers in Gaza must be condemned by all those who stand for peace. There needs to be an immediate investigation into Ahmed Abbas's death on his way back from a morning prayer, followed by meaningful accountability for those involved. Our hearts go out to his loved ones, friends, and colleagues. In the midst of the war, there is no bigger tragedy than the killing of a peacemaker. Let's see how the DA will vote on Tuesday. We've come to the end of our voyage. Thank you so much for choosing Flight SAFM BTH 326 with me, Aldrin Sampear. Today, we are specifically playing out with this song. Hopefully it lands in Kolkata. Currently 188 runs for 6 with 25 runs that Australia needs from 75 balls. So hopefully Vicky Sampson and her aura can land in Kolkata. Vicky Sampson there in the background, African Dream. And our parting shot this afternoon or this evening is from Eric Thomas, who once said, no matter how hard the battle gets or no matter how many people don't believe in your dream, never give up. And Joe is reading our credits this evening.
Hi all, it's Joe from Durban closing tonight's show, and I'm sure Tommy behind the sports mess has a keen eye on the approaches match, and we hope for the best. But behind the mic, Aldrin Sampear, on the production team, Temba, Kanya, Fusani, Mark and Lundi. What would our afternoons be without you? Thank you so much, team. A round of applause for all of you and a great shout out.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
And remember to love each other and lead with compassion. Totsins, enjoy the rest of your evening.